Well, hello. Welcome to the live stream number 7, Hellbent Holler Live. We are raring to go. We are so excited to be back in our studio. Last time we did a live stream, we were actually in West Virginia at that Chief Logan State Park Lodge. So it's nice to be actually back here at the Hellbent Holler studio doing a live stream. Let's do all this, make sure everybody can hear us before we get started. And all right, got that up there. It is so cool to see everybody. Hello, Deuster. Hello, Matt Keenan.
War Criminal 7, Dumpster Diving Dogman, Tony
Jonested
Kamanya, Stan Burton.
All right, cool.
Jules, Cryptid Keeper, Monster Bait TV. What's up, buddy? Pink Dahlia, Elizabeth Parr. We got a few in here. All right. Jill Duck. Hello, Jill Duck.
Hello, Jill Duck.
Hello, Jill Duck.
Welcome back. Welcome back. All right, it is so good to see everybody in here tonight. I hope everybody is having a really, really awesome fall. Like, this is like the beginning of real fall weather for where we live. So I know that some places up north actually got snow and everything, but we are just now getting to like real fall weather here. And we got to actually enjoy the leaves up at the Chief Logan State Park up in West Virginia, seeing all the leaves through Virginia and West Virginia. That was beautiful. So it's just now starting to get like kind of changing leaves here about a week later. So we're always like a week behind where we live. And it's been just really nice, right?
Very nice.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a field investigation video coming out in the next week.
Yeah. That's going to be awesome. I'm working really hard on getting that edited up and ready for you guys. I think it's going to come out Friday. It looks like it's coming out Friday, and it is a doozy. It is definitely a doozy. I know I've been like editing, and I'll call Joe periodically. He'll be at work, and I'll just be editing this video, and I'm like, oh my god, this is going to be so awesome. Everybody's going to love it. So I'm really, really excited.
Scary though at the time.
It was at the time it was freaking terrifying. So, but you guys are gonna absolutely love it. I know that we put ourselves in dangerous situations all the time, but at least we're okay if we put a video out. So as long as those videos keep coming out, we're still alive. So that's the good thing.
And we're not gonna really, I don't know, like any spoilers or anything like that, but we're gonna discuss, possibly touch upon some of the stuff that happened to us.
Yeah, we can touch upon some of the stuff that happened.
It's weird. For me, the whatever we're dealing with in those mountains, I don't know. I have a new, I don't want to say understanding, but it entered a new phase, I think.
It definitely, we definitely had a monkey wrench tossed at us, and it got really, really scary at one point in time. This video is going to be taking place in the same area that a lot of our videos take place. It's an ongoing research site we've been working out of for a while. So it's actually thrown us a lot of weird curveballs.
Yeah, we're having to rethink our approach, rethink how we do things up there. We have to rethink some safety measures for that area. The whole outing kind of rocked us back on our heels, and we've got to try to figure out, we don't know what we're dealing with up there, basically.
Yeah, so I can't wait. Yeah. Next week's live stream will be kind of a centered around a discussion of that video. So it will be out Friday, and your homework will be to watch it, because next Monday we're going to be discussing everything that happened in it and kind of all the weird going on that occurred. So David Hunt, there you go. I was about to say,
it's impossible to do for the spot we're talking about. There's no cell signal. There's no cell signal for 20 miles up there. We thought they put some cell repeating towers in an adjacent mountain, but we still don't have cell signal up there at all. So it's impossible to do a live stream from there.
That's why it's so important that we carry our Garmin InReach Mini, because there is absolutely no cell service there. And if we do have an emergency situation, we do have our Garmin InReach Mini so that we can throw out that SOS, and we're able to actually message the people back home and let them know that we're safe. And it leaves a little breadcrumb of where our GPS location is. So that's why a piece of tech like that is so important, because you don't have cell service everywhere. You're not able to get in touch with people from everywhere. It's so important to have that safety measure in place so that if you do go missing doing this kind of work, somebody knows what your last location is.
Yeah, the inReach Mini is pretty cool. For those of you guys who do this sort of stuff, or you're thinking about doing this sort of stuff, you hear us mention it all the time. You should probably do like a little introduction video to it sometime. I mean, people can find intro information on the net, but still, just in addition, be able to send out satellite text messages where there's no cell signal. People can track us that we send the link to on a map.
Yeah.
It updates every 5 minutes our position. So the more you update it, the quicker you go through battery. So we do have to kind of keep it charged while we're out there. But every 5 minutes right now, it sends an update to our location. So the people that we have kind of monitoring us from home can kind of know where we're at all times.
Yeah,
so.
I know that we're still alive and moving. Tracker says, go SpaceX, signal everywhere. Yeah, I cannot wait for Starlink to go live. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it'll be a game changer. So
eventually down the road, I would love for us to have like a small mobile command center that we take into places that we could hook a Starlink up to and maybe like broadcast from out in the field. That would be a huge goal down the line, but that'd be definitely something that we would look into and probably something we could actually accomplish in the next couple of years.
People still coming in. Goshawk, Douglas, you said Jones, such cryptid responses here. Tracker. So glad to see you guys.
Lots of familiar faces. We were really glad that you guys could join us here tonight. And I know that we missed last Monday because we were in West Virginia.
Oh, we did one the night before. So,
we did.
Yeah,
we did one the night before. Yeah, but everybody's used to that Monday schedule. So it was just we got one in a little early. So cool.
Narc side is up, so you can take it away here. I'm gonna hit some water. So
Tracker says, I use a hatchet and mark trees for GPS and still do. Yeah. We don't usually use the GPS to navigate. We generally use the Garmin inReach Mini, like he said before, as sort of letting people at home know that we're still alive and still okay, because we are in remote areas and we do dangerous work. So
we use the we've got a 64 ST Garmin that we use to usually mark like locations of cameras that we leave out, locations of like drop audio recorders that we leave out, just so we can to kind of take the guesswork out of when we go back to collect them.
And it helps us data map, where did we get this audio recording? Where did we get this kind of, where did we find this? What did we do here? So it's good to have the 64 ST because you can mark locations of all that stuff. Yeah, and then you have it logged right there. So it's good to have that data already logged for you.
And we usually run multiple like redundant GPS tracking. We have it on the inReach Mini. Usually track us on the S64 ST. And then we have like GPS watches as well that we set up to go ahead and start tracking it. So just in case something happens where we have to haul butt into a unfamiliar part of the forest, we will be able to get back with no problem. Because we've had singular GPSs fail before.
Yeah. We
run redundance on them right now. So
the first instance we had real GPS failure was actually in Panthertown Valley.
Yeah.
So that really led us to having multiple GPS units on hand. But you need to have paper maps on hand too and know how to use it, know how to navigate the forest. Bigfoot Society's in the house.
Hey, Bigfoot Society. So
Crypto Keeper says, are you guys impressed with your new equipment being out researching? So we have not officially deployed the infrasound equipment yet.
Yeah.
However,
we've tested it.
We have tested it several times, but because of what has been going on in the area that's going to be featured in this video coming up on Friday, we actually chose to go out super light. We didn't want to bring a bunch of equipment out. We made sure we had our cameras, weapons, GPSs, thermal,
audio recorders,
and then that's our basic bare bones kit. And that's what we took out. And then, of course, like various bits of survival gear that we need to take out on every kind of hike. But we went really bare bones because we don't know what we're dealing with up there. So it's really important that we go bare bones so that we're mobile and we're able to respond quickly to whatever occurs up there. But we are looking forward to deploying that infrasound equipment. And we have a couple of ideas of where we're going to deploy it. One of those places is definitely going to be the land between the lakes.
Yeah, with the infrasound equipment, I mean, it's not that big, and it's got a external power source to it now that, but it still takes a few minutes to set it out, level it. Even if you don't have it hooked up to a laptop, you have to deploy there's like a tube that you have to deploy with it. And going into this area, there's some weird stuff going on. So we don't want to take anything with us that we just can't pull out of the pack, look at, then put it right back in. So that infrasound equipment, we might not deploy it in that area for a bit. So.
Yeah. Let's see here. William Kennedy says, little red reflective tape country mailbox stickers. Put some on trees as you go in during the day. Help you find your way out at night easier. We don't use the GPSs to track in and out, to guide us. We don't use that unless we absolutely need to. Generally, I can get us in, I can get us out because I have some weird, Joe, what do you say about my?
Yeah, she's got a phenomenal sense of direction in the woods, especially through here because you can't really get landmarks because the forest is so thick where we're at. You have to really, and they're mostly like mountain laurels where we're going to as well. So climbing, I guess you could climb some of them, you know what I'm saying, to get up and get like a view of the surrounding area.
But definitely not at night. But
I mean, a lot of times you're just pushing through the brush and following little game trails, old roads, stuff like that. But
yeah, normally I can take us in and I can take us out. I'm usually leading that path there. So
yeah, but they've got they're called like bright eyes or something like that. People use them.
Yeah, a lot of fishermen use them too. Yeah. So. Did you see this Dogman video that Todd Hall's talking about? What do y'all think about the Dogman video about the government being involved? Did you see this Dogman video?
I've watched like, I don't even know how many videos over the past like week that people had sent us. I'm trying to remember which one.
Somebody was asking me about a Dogman. I was like, I have not had time to watch anybody else's.
Yeah, it's been difficult. Like I said,
we got home from West Virginia and we literally just went to bed. Got up the next day and started working again.
Yeah, so. Todd. Yeah, Todd had sent me that. So okay. I had to refresh my mind for it here, but it's a lot in that video, man. It's a lot. That guy, if it's what he's saying is true, he's really read in to these things, and it's mirrored some of the other stuff that we've heard people talk about as well. That these things were created in a lab, or at least a few of them were, created in a lab and released out, whether they're still under government control or a few have like gotten out and gotten rogue. Mm-hmm. But it was like Israeli news, something or other was that channel. But yeah, it was an interesting video. I kind of breezed through some of his other stuff. He does a lot of political stuff, but then he had a couple of things about missing people in national parks and everything like that. So the guy looks like he's tuned into some pretty decent information that most people do not have access to.
I think in our episode of What Does the Government Know About Cryptids, we discuss the government actually being an instrument in mm-hmm. developing the Dogman and breeding Dogman. This is an idea that's gone around for a little while now. And it was even discussed when it comes to the LBL massacre that they came out of Fort Campbell down there mm-hmm. and came up to the LBL and attacked that family in 82. That was something that's been bandied about. Andrew Johnson says, are those places still under government owned you go to? I'm assuming you're talking about the land that we go to do research. A lot of times we will go to public land and do our work, or we will go to private land. It's kind of a combination of those. We go where the stories take us and where we are able to actually go. Some private land you can't get into mm-hmm. Safely and legally. So we try to avoid breaking the law and we try to avoid getting shot by homeowners.
Angry property owners. But most of the area that we go to in North Georgia is, I don't know if it's under the Forestry Service or who's in charge of it, but we've never seen it. We have never seen anybody up there in an official capacity, and we have only seen a handful of people up there in a private capacity. It's when we went up over the past weekend, hunting season's in full swing right now. And so we had Blaze Orange with us just in case we saw anybody up there hunting, because it's a secluded spot.
And not just because it's on brand.
Yeah, but we didn't see anybody at all, which is really odd.
It was odd. And the fact that it was like the first really, really nice fall weather weekend around here, to where the leaves are changing, the temperatures dropped, you can actually have a fire at night and not get too hot. I'm surprised that there weren't more people, because we go through a lot of national forest land to get up to where we do our work. I'm surprised there weren't more people up there hunting or camping. This would be perfect. It would have been a perfect time to go camping. I was like, gosh, this is like the perfect time to be out here. It's wonderful. And yet this area that we go to, we never see anybody camping up there. And it's huge. It's such a huge area, and it would be a prime camping area. But I don't know. I think maybe the locals that are in that area maybe have attempted camping before, and things happen.
It's not a welcoming place. We saw one guy up there one time. We saw a car up there and saw a guy coming out of the forest on foot, and we figured out he was a hunter. There's a whole network of gravel roads up there, so we were moving to another location anyway. He kind of waved at us. We pulled up, talked to him. He wanted to know if we were up there hunting, because obviously we didn't want to be right up on each other. And we're like, no, we're just kind of up here doing some hiking, kind of gave him an excuse. And then we even said to him, we're like, we don't really see a lot of hunters up here. And he goes, well, it's because there's no deer up here for some reason. He goes, there's never any deer up here. He basically just went out and pretended to hunt to get out of the house for a while. He just said that he went up there because it was peaceful and there was anybody up there. We asked him if he'd ever seen or had anything strange happen to him. He told us he had found some weird nests.
Yeah,
up there,
huge
ground nests.
Huge ground nests. And we didn't even mention what we did.
Yeah.
We didn't mention anything about that. He volunteered this information to two strangers he had no knowledge of. So that was pretty interesting that he volunteered that information to us, like without any sort of prodding questions or anything like that.
But even he made it a big point that he was always out of there before the sun set. So, and when we asked him why, we were just like, why are you out of here before the sun sets? Anything? And he just goes, it's dark, it's secluded up here.
You don't want to be here.
Yeah, this isn't a place to be. And it's very dark, very secluded up there. So
hello to Stephen Taylor. He's in the chat tonight too.
Stephen Taylor. Alan Lassiter is in there. So Jersey is in the house. Nobody goes in the woods anymore. They do, at least in our area. But you, like north of us, up around Asheville, has been like insanely, like it's grown an insane amount of, and everybody gets there and they kind of adopt that woods hippie like lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? So
sort of.
Yeah,
not really woods hippie. These are people that live in a city. That's why the SAR team in Haywood County is the most active SAR team
in the lower 48.
In the lower 48, I think. I'm pretty sure.
They were at least as of a couple of years ago.
Yeah, because that's what the guys with SE said. The guys with SE train with them a good bit. So the Haywood County, North Carolina, which is actually the county that I'm from, is west of Asheville, which is, I think Asheville's in Buncombe County, I believe. But all these people come from Asheville, and there are these people that live in Asheville, and they've moved here because it's their hippie mecca or whatever they say it is. And they move there and they decide that they want to go hiking.
They're outdoorsmen now.
They are outdoorsmen now. Yeah. They're completely unprepared for it. So they go hiking in the Pisgah National Forest or the Great Smoky Mountain National Park.
And they're just getting lost left and right.
Yeah.
So
Lost, injured,
tired, don't want to walk out by themselves, but
didn't bring any water.
So if you go there, like the trailheads are packed. But there's nobody past that first kind of natural barrier, like a steep hill or side of a mountain or like a water crossing or anything like that. So it's weird. It's weird. Like you would think that just by the amount of cars that you see, it's like Smoky Mountain and stuff like that, that every inch of that park is being covered with people, and nobody gets past that first natural barrier, man. So, and it's weird because if they do make it past there, you start seeing like little bits of like gear and stuff like that I guess people get tired and just start ditching and then just head back. So
Jonestead Farm says, one of the reasons I love your research style, you go deep and you go in deep and as prepared as possible and well researched on so many paranormal / cryptid subjects. Well, we do this because this is all we do. This is what we dedicate all of our time, energy, effort, money. We dedicate everything to this. This is what we do all the time. So if you're going to do something, I always say to do it the right way, use the right tool for the job. So I think it's very important, if you consider yourself a real cryptid field investigator, that you invest the time, energy, and money into doing it the right way.
And it's exhausting.
It is exhausting. Yeah.
We were talking the other day that we were, because we're not really, she's more active on social media than I am, but I'll go into a couple of different like Facebook groups, especially the ones that are regional to us, just to see if anybody's talking about any activity that's going on. We've gotten some pretty good leads and gotten ourselves into some pretty cool stuff doing that. But somebody was talking about some TV show, and I'm going, how does anybody involved in this field have time to watch TV nowadays, man? So, so yeah, like I said, but it's extremely time consuming.
Well, yeah, and also it's not just learning how to use the equipment, going out and doing the work. It's preparing to do the work. Like I said, a couple weeks ago, I went and got wilderness first aid certified. We're actually going to start doing SAR training soon.
Yeah, we're signed up. We're getting signed up for SAR training. Just because a lot of what we do, we reference missing 411 a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now I had some like informal SAR experience up when I lived a little bit further north from here, but we are focusing on a lot of strange, like missing people cases in this one particular area.
Yeah.
So Jessi and I kind of figured that if we're going to look into this, we need to have a better understanding of
missing people,
their
behaviors
in general. So we're signed up. We're going to get some like actual formalized SAR training, probably after the first of the year. And just because, again, you just can't base on this on somebody else's opinion of what's strange. I think David Pilates has a very good feel for it just because of the volume of cases that he's looked for and everything like that. But otherwise we hear, all this is a very mysterious disappearance, and we're like, well, is it? So that's our plan after the first years, to kind of get some real formalized SAR training to go along with some of the other skills that we've picked up over the past few years.
We've got a small debate in the chat here about what we're going to call Hellbent Holler fans. Bigfoot Society says, I love the name Hollerites, while Cryptid Response says, oh, can we be Hollerbillies? I always had the idea of calling people Hellbenders, but that was
like
always
the big Appalachian salamander.
Like a big Appalachian salamander. Yeah. I thought that was cool, but
and then Carlos asked if we go armed when we go exploring, and then Douglas asked what caliber do we use. Yeah, we both carry Glock 10 millimeters. I carry a full size, she carries a compact, and we carry a Mossberg Shockwave 12 gauge, and we actually had that out this past weekend because of what had happened the weekend before. When we went back into a certain area, I stripped down a lot of my just useless stuff that I wasn't.
I thought you were going to just stop the statement there. I stripped down and got my shotgun. I was ready.
But and just went in like that. So yeah, we go armed, and I don't want to dance around the subject, but I guess we're going to dance around it all night long. But after what happened in the research area we've been going to, we've got to reevaluate a lot of stuff. We don't have as good a grip on what's going on up there that we thought we did. There's some activity up there that has, quite frankly, got us puzzled. It's been a source of debate between the two of us. We're trying to figure out what we experienced up there.
Yeah,
it's been something. It has been hours spent reviewing audio footage, and she's going through a lot of video footage right now, but we're not quite sure how to proceed with that area now. We're not quite sure what our next step is going to be.
I'm definitely looking forward to hearing y'all's feedback after you guys watch the video, because it's a doozy, and we really need people to listen to the audio that we got and let us know what they think it is, or what their theories on what's happening is. We have our own theories about it, and again, we'll discuss that next week, because I want you guys to watch the video.
We don't want to put any, I know it sounds kind of annoying, like we're just teasing with it, and I guess we are to a certain extent. We're teasing with it because it's on our minds a lot right now. So it's hard for us to talk about anything related to these topics without discussing that.
I spent 10 hours at my computer today working on
and I was up I've been up like late into the night just listening to this like audio evidence that we got, trying to figure out what it's of. But at the same token, I guess we want people to be interested, but we don't want to prejudice you
on what we think it is. So we don't want you to have a bias, a preconceived notion.
Kind of go into it knowing that it's something that we'd like people to pay attention to. We'd like to hear people's thoughts on it. We'd like to hear people's perspectives on it. And she and I have a different perspective on a couple of things there.
Yeah.
So we're not quite sure. We have different ideas about what we might be dealing with up there. So
how did Stephen Taylor says, how did y'all come up with the name Hellbent Holler? Well, I have Hellbent tattooed on my knuckles. I've had that for probably 15 years. No, probably about 13 years at this point. I've had Hellbent on my knuckles. And we started doing Appalachian cryptid research. So we were like, let's put it together, Hellbent Holler. So it just came out that way. I think it's pretty clever and I like it. And I already had the tattoo, so that worked out great. Tales from the Narc Side says, I heard a strange electric like humming in eastern Kentucky, hiking to structures that I had previously found on Saturday. Have you guys ever heard any kind of strange electrical humming in the woods? Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And in a weird way, it seems like it might be we're hearing more. And I don't know if...
And it seems to be directly tied to some physical sort of creature or entity there. And it is very timely that you asked us that question.
That is very timely because that is something that we pretty much encounter in our latest expedition that we did. We encounter that kind of thing. This is part of why Joe started testing for radio
infrasound, RF signal, everything like that. So.
This is part of why, because we're trying to figure out if there's high frequency waves or low frequency waves present when we do hear this electrical humming, because this has happened on multiple occasions at this point where we have heard this. We've been out in the woods, far away from anything. There's no power lines. There's no facilities that we know of. There's no cars around. There's nothing. And all of a sudden you hear a electrical humming, just and it just comes at you. So yes, absolutely.
Douglas wanted to know if you ever thought about a 460 Smith & Wesson mag. Nah, I mean, we like having the 10 millimeters. That's a great caliber, but that way we're carrying the magazines at least are interchangeable that we have. We carry 200 grain hard cast, and then I carry some Ashley Extreme Penetrator rounds in mine. So Barton Nunley is in the house. Good evening, Barton. So
hello, Barton Nunley.
And it's funny because Barton and I usually talk like once or twice a week, and just to kind of let you guys know how hectic it's been and how tired we are from doing all this. Barton's like going, dude, are you alive? I haven't talked to you in a few days. I'm like, I could have sworn I spoke to Barton Munley just the other night. I dreamed it. We're so ran down at this point doing this stuff. So, Jones said, Farm, Red River Gorge in Eastern Kentucky was so packed this weekend, there was no place to park. It was insane. And Red River's got some really interesting, like, Dogman accounts that come out of there, Red River Gorge Dogman. And they're violent too.
Yeah.
Some of the stories that we've heard that people that have been there, there's actually been like armed conflict, like people like shooting at these things coming out of the dark at them. It's some really just dramatic and very highly aggressive like stories out of there. So
Jersey says this live show needs its own channel separate from the main channel. No, I like to keep everything together in a concise manner. I don't need multiple things to manage. That's why I don't have I don't have like multiple social media accounts for Hellbent Holler, because we are Hellbent Holler. We have one thing. We have one thing to manage, because again, this is a time issue with a lot of stuff, because we spend so much time out in the field, so much time working, so much time editing video and going through audio, that this is so time consuming. We just don't have time to manage multiple outlets for that.
We need some like interns or something like that. So Matt Kane asked, you ever thought about using a death whistle? We haven't, but actually Elijah Henderson with the Cryptid Studies Institute has one, and is thinking about taking it out to the LBL to see what happens with it. Now, if some death whistles, if they're made properly, will emit low levels of ultrasound as well. You've got a entity out there that has dog-like or canine-like or wolf-like, qualities to it. We all know how a dog whistle works, so it's really interesting to see. So yeah, that's been bandied about, but that was his idea entirely. He came up with that, and we're really interested to see that actually get put into practice out in the field to see what happens with it.
So everybody's going nuts for Hellbenders. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, gotcha. Ryan's Asheville Woods starting to look like the Suicide Woods in Japan. It's weird because if you guys are familiar with the SE Knives company, SEESEE, we used to see them at Blade Show all the time. We didn't go to Blade Show this past year, but Jessi talks to them.
I carry SE knives all the time. If you ever watch our videos and I've got a knife on my shoulder or on my chest rig with that orange handle, that's an SE3. I have 4 or 5 SE3s. But yes, I carry SE knives all the time. And those guys, they walk the walk.
All those guys are amazing.
They actually do search and rescue training. They actually go out and do search and rescue. So
if we could get like a couple of them interested in this sort of stuff, we'd probably have it all wrapped up
in
about 2 months, man.
We would be unstoppable at that point.
They were telling us that we'd seen them at Blade Show, and they were like, we're up in y'all's neck of the woods all the time. And we're like, really, where at? And they're like, up around like Asheville. They bring some of their students up from there. So they do North American. It used to be South American survival training, but now they're doing like North American survival training as well. He said they bring some of their advanced students up to get hands-on like search and rescue training up through here because there's so many call outs in the area, just because people go out. And it's funny because we preach those like personal locator beacons all the time. And the guy had said that was like the best thing and the worst thing that had ever happened to search and rescue, because a lot of people will go out and just get too tired to hike back. So they'll trigger their personal locator beacon. And the next thing you know, they've got, 4 or 6 or 8, SAR guys coming out there expecting to have to like carry somebody out with a broken leg or some other sort of injury. Now it's just somebody with a bellyache and they just don't feel like hiking back out. So James Parker. Wish that guy y'all ran into would have shown you those nests. Yeah, he was a little uncomfortable. You could tell.
Also, the sun was going down, so
he was a little uncomfortable. He was telling us to leave before, and he said that it was just because it was so remote up there and secluded, and it got so dark at night. Also, I think he was a little on edge because he's not used to seeing people up there. Yeah. So he's talking to 2 people with like backpacks with all this equipment hanging off there. You could tell he was just a little at edge. So yeah, he wasn't doing anything with us other than just giving us that brief story and then just getting out of there. So
hello to Hennessy Kristen. Good to see you on here on the live stream. I talked to her on Instagram a lot. All right, we've got some UAP sightings. Stephen Tichenel says, I had a UAP sighting Saturday night. You know what? It is so weird. I don't know. That there was that UAP UFO flap that occurred. Several that occurred, but it seems like it starts to get to the forefront of people's minds, and all of a sudden more people come out and are willing to talk about their UAP encounters. So it seems like a lot more people are like just seeing UAP stuff.
I think a lot of it too is that there's misidentification that happens, but misidentification goes both ways. There are people that see like a satellite or like Starlink. When Starlink satellites were out, a lot of people were seeing those and going, oh, I saw a UAP, I saw a UFO. I think some people have legit UFO sightings and they're just so closed-minded to the possibility of it that
they're just saying that, oh, that must be
they come up with some sort of mundane explanation for it, even if that mundane explanation doesn't make sense. Just because they can't, it's not in their worldview that there's something out there beyond just the mundane everyday type stuff. So
Jill Doug dropped us $20 for your hard work and awesomeness. Thank you very much, Jill Doug.
We always like to make sure that anybody who donates stuff to us, that you know where it goes to. Out of the last live stream we did, we took the donations. We actually picked up a Jackery portable power supply because I need to, in some of these areas that we go into, we can run the infrasound detection equipment just off the LEDs that are built into it. And we're actually going to do a demonstration video on this and let you guys see it to see how it kind of works. But in some of the areas where it's not too deep in, we're going to carry like a beater laptop back there so we can get a real accurate kind of like assessment of what's going on. But we just need a way to power it. So we've got a Jackery now that we use the money for that. So we really appreciate it. Cool little device too, man. We powered the infrasound detection equipment and the laptop off it at Wild and Weird Con for like 8 hours. And I think I was down to like 78%. So we appreciated it. It is, it's not used for anything other than just to further the investigations and to kind of flesh out some of these crazy ideas that we come up with. So Central Florida Bigfoot is in the house, and we would like
Hello,
to
Matt.
thank him for the kind words that he had for us recently on an interview that he did on YouTube.
Yeah, that was really that really meant a lot to me. That you spoke so highly of my video editing skills, B, the way I film our shows. I really appreciate that, because I put a lot of I'm not really I'm not trained to do any of this. I've had to teach myself how to do everything. So the fact that someone who actually knows what they're doing, likes what I do,
an actual photojournalist,
yeah, an
likes
actual photojournalist,
your video skills there,
appreciates what I do and how I put things together. I really appreciate that, because again, I don't have any training in this. I just kind of put it together how I would like to see it. I see it in my brain, and I kind of film everything how I want to film it and get everything set up. And that's why we have all of this really cool equipment. We use that Phasm cam, which is it does UV and it does IR. It's a full spectrum camera, and you just get those fantastic colors, but you also get to see everything. You get such a wide view in the forest in the middle of the night. That is the best thing about that camera, is you can actually just see everything around you, and it's not so concise down to just where your flashlight goes.
So you guys check out Central Florida Bigfoot's YouTube channel. He does a lot of cool investigations. He does some stuff on like kayaks out in the middle of the swamps and everything like that. So it's really cool. He's definitely out there looking. He's definitely out there beating the bushes, but he's in a completely different environment than we are. Much, just a very swampy environment, as opposed to the mountains that we usually operate in. So it's really cool to it's cool to see what he experiences down there that's similar to us, and then how there's like maybe differences because of the environment that they operate in. So yeah, check him out. It's really,
there's a lot of snakes down there, which I'm not keen on. Dumpster diving Dogman, thank you for the super sticker.
Sir.
We really appreciate that, sir.
Somebody else had done it as well.
It's on down here, I think.
Dumpster diving Dogman asked what SAR training stands for. Search and rescue. So when you read about some of these missing people, mysterious, kind of the ones that maybe have like a lot of questions as to why this person went missing or why they weren't found, search and rescue are the guys that are out actually looking, both civilian volunteers and then actual paid like first responder type people. The majority of search and rescue was done, however, by trained volunteers, and you can have everything from somebody who's untrained, who's just out there walking in a straight line with 40 other people looking for a body in a field or anything like that, and then you have the more specialized trained search and rescue people. So one of the areas that we're looking into has some pretty mysterious disappearances to it. So we were thinking about in order to be able to do it justice and approach it and actually look into this the way it deserves to be looked into, we needed to be able to kind of speak that language and more than we already can. So we're actually looking to get some formalized training, like we said, probably after the first of the year. So
Chattelx77 says, we have an Aztec death whistle. We need to take it out in the hills of Tennessee and see what we get.
Yeah, do that and let us know what you get.
I am all for just experimenting with different
just anything
things.
new, man. So
trying something new.
I mean, we see people that are just like, oh, I got my little bat. I'm going to bang on this tree. We're going to do some wood knocks and some whoops. And I mean, I guess that's all right. But I mean, there's enough people out there doing that. I mean, I'd rather that we spend a lot of time and energy and stuff like that on something that didn't work, but at least we tried.
Yeah, you at least give it a go. And that's the thing, is trial and error. Stephen Taylor, thank you for the $20.
Thank you, Stephen
we
Taylor.
appreciate you so much. That is so cool. We're trying to catch up with the chat while we do this too, guys.
Yeah, that's fine. We're catching up. Joe going all Billy from Predator in the Woods. Yeah, Predator's a giant influence on us.
That is such high praise for him.
You don't understand, man. If I go out, I've already told her if it looks like we're going out, I'm going out like Billy, man.
Oh
so
my gosh. I'm going out like Dutch.
Going out like Dutch. So
let's see.
We're just going to the chat. A lot of good discussion in the chat, man. That's we're so glad that you guys get in here and get to talk with each other. And when we get everything like ironed out on this and get it running the way we want it to run, The idea would be that maybe like on some shows we could bring people in from the chat and stuff like that if somebody had something they want to discuss or like a great idea that they had. So that's the plan down the road. We just gotta get the rhythm to this down a little bit more. So
Joan said farm. Joan said farm, and Tales from the Narc side said, so my friend and I pulled a hellbender when we watched hours of your investigations while we camped in LBL. We've pulled a hellbender or two ourselves. So yeah, that'll happen. Yeah. That will happen.
War Criminal 7, 10 millimeter was carried by the FBI. Yeah, they adopted it after that Florida shootout that I'm sure you know about. When like the 38s that they were carrying weren't doing quite well enough. So they adopted it, and then they went to 40 caliber, went to 40 Smith & Wesson because a lot of the FBI recruits couldn't handle the recoil on 10 millimeter. So a lot of talk on the 10 millimeter. Sidearms and loaded with Underwood, hard cast. Yeah, that's what we've been carrying. We've got some Buffalo Bore, but Underwood's what I've been carrying. Martin Groves actually gave us some 10 millimeter, gifted us with some 10 millimeter.
Yeah, at the Wild and Weird Con.
So we want to carry it, but at the same token, we've just kind of got it set up on a shelf just to kind of almost like a conversation piece at this point. So
Jay Myers says, when you go to the LBL, do you go in there from the Tennessee side near Piney campgrounds? No, we've not really done a lot on the Tennessee side yet. We have been focusing mainly on the north end and then the central areas. We go over this a lot when we talk about the LBL, that it is such a vast swath of land that we could go there every day for years and still not scratch the surface on the land between the lakes. Yeah. It's so weird, and it's so big, and it's so wild that we could just go there and go there and go there. But we will probably pop into the area or in the Tennessee areas the next time we go up, because we've got kind of a plan that we've put together for the next expedition we're doing in the LBL, which is coming up pretty soon, I would say.
Yeah, we're trying to set up the time right now to actually get back into the LBL for another 9 or 10 days.
Yeah, and you guys are going to go nuts after that investigation, because we're going to a lot of really spooky new spots.
Yeah.
And we will return to Station 16 to see what's changed over there.
Yeah, to see if anything if it's still just completely sterile and swept clean, if new bones have appeared.
Yeah, I can't wait to check that out.
We'll dip. It's weird because the area around the supposed massacre site, we want to branch out from that, but every time we're up through there, we seem like we do get activity up through there. So
it's an odd place for sure.
It is an odd place. So
that's not far from where we got. I mean, and it's not like we just get stuff that you would say, oh, this is Dogman activity. We'll go up there and we'll get things that are almost like you saw that apparition. You saw that apparition near where the massacre site is. And it was that woman. And it's right near a cemetery. Of course, there's like 200 cemeteries on the peninsula, but it's so weird, the variety of activity that we find in the land between the lakes. And everywhere we go, it seems like it's just one thing after another. It's such a strange, rich place.
Yeah. And I know most of the focus gets focused on that 82 massacre on the northern end, but I think that there's a lot of stuff that's being overlooked in the LBL just by people that are into this sort of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Just because when you think LBL, you think, the 82 RV massacre. There's a lot of stuff going on up through there, and it's all over the peninsula, and it's a wide variety of anomalous activity.
Yeah.
So Tony asked mechanical sounds on the wood as well. Yep. We mentioned this on another live stream because that's a common, like, recurring factor with a lot of different stuff. Everything from going back into European folklore with like fairy encounters and some of the sounds that you would hear, the wild hunt that is through from, like, the area that is now Germany, like going up northwest, this wild hunt that would take to the skies, and you would have to stay indoors and not be out because it would grab you and pick you up. And there was just a metallic clashing that was associated with that.
And it seems like there's a variety of metallic sounds or mechanical sounds. There's like the clashing, the sound of the trap in the missing hunter incident from the missing 411
case. So yeah.
Tom Mezek's case, they heard like what sounded like a trap closing, like a large trap.
Yeah.
Martin Groves heard a mechanical, like, or a metal clinging type sound.
And even if you get into some of just the real stringent flesh and blood Bigfoot researchers, I mean, they'll talk about hearing weird stuff in the woods. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I heard what sounded like a car door slam shut, or I heard one guy was talking about how his theory was he was hearing this metallic sound that a tornado had ripped off a tin roof off of a house and transported it miles and miles and miles into the forest, and the Bigfoot were shaking it for amusement. And I'm going, all right, maybe, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you can't see what's doing it, but just another one of these weird mechanical metallic sounds that just seems to be just a constant theme with a lot of this stuff that I think's really been overlooked just because it's not as dramatic. It's not as exciting as some of the stuff that people usually want to talk about.
Thank you, Cowboy 5 Rings, for the $4.99. Appreciate you. We do appreciate you guys when you guys throw us a little scratch. It all goes into equipment, every bit of it. So obviously we have a ton of equipment. We use it and we love to bring it into our videos, love to show you guys how it works, and love to gather data with all the stuff that we buy through y'all's support. So that we do appreciate every bit of it.
You know, and that's one of the things that really takes up a lot of the time with it. And we've kind of talked about this in the past, that for those of you who are thinking about doing this sort of stuff, if you get the equipment, like, learn how to use it. Learn the because I didn't know anything about a tri-field meter before I started doing this. Man, I'd seen it on TV, but I didn't know what it measured or what the range was for it or anything like that. And I didn't know the first thing about infrasound. You know, I don't know anything about acoustics, but all the information's out there for you. It's exhausting, but you can pull it up, man. You can it takes some perseverance, and we're studying a lot of stuff, man. And I've always said that even if we got out of this like tomorrow, the time was spent so well just because we've learned such a weird variety of like stuff doing this, man. So
yeah.
Ryan Simmons want to know if that machine they turned on in Europe, that's having an effect with the creatures.
CERN.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a big believer in the weird occult nature of what they do at CERN. The Large Hadron Collider is obviously something that mankind was probably never supposed to build. And I think that I don't know. You seem like you see all of these. I don't know. Everybody goes with the Mandela effect. That's the first thing that they go towards. But it seems like when they started turning this thing on, that everything just started going haywire, going weird. People's minds started breaking in a way with all this.
And I used to actually argue against that. I thought that this was, you know, like Copernicus or Galileo being like persecuted again. That, you know, but then I saw the footage of that ritual that they did, that then they tried to cover it up going, oh, it's just a joke.
Yeah.
And I'm going, yeah, I often play jokes with like 20 of my closest friends in black robes and dark courtyards at night where there's nobody around to witness that joke. Yeah, I do that all the time. And then
classic
I was just like,
scientist behavior.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, there's something going on there. So
Cadillac 77 says, I saw a giant black triangle when I was 7 years old. A couple years after that, had a paranormal / ghost experience, and then had a Bigfoot sighting a couple years after that. All connected, I believe. I'm willing to agree with you. There's a lot of instances where people are seeing UAPs or flying craft and then seeing a Bigfoot. And these are all within the same time period. But what I think you're referring to is these are all different time periods. These are throughout different periods of your life. Maybe with you witnessing the black triangle, whatever that may be, that UAP, maybe that opened the door. Maybe that opened your mind and then made you more of a receptive individual to having these sightings or these experiences.
Yeah. And so one of the popular things that people that are against this kind of like interconnectivity of all of these different strange phenomena, they'll go, well, there's more Bigfoot sightings without UFOs or strange lights than there are of UFOs or strange lights. And that's probably true, but you can't really quantify it, okay? Because everybody's main source for like Bigfoot sightings and encounters is the BFRO like database, and we all know that that's in accounting. If you have garbage numbers coming in, you're gonna have garbage numbers coming out. We know that they have edited, they have altered the information, and I'm not dogging on the BFRO. It's their site to do with what they want, but we know that they have kicked out the encounters that they think sound too out there. So,
or they just omit the data. They'll keep the encounter for their database. They just omit the strange data that they don't approve of or that doesn't fit the narrative.
And two, there's such a huge regional variation to the Sasquatch phenomenon. A lot of times I'll talk to people that are out in like the Pacific Northwest, Northern California and stuff like that. And I'm just going, it doesn't seem like we're even dealing with the same thing here, you know? But like I said, just because there are 2 cases of someone seeing a Sasquatch that did not involve a UFO does not mean that the case where somebody did see a UFO in addition to a Sasquatch, that doesn't mean that that's false. Just because maybe there's a slight majority or a large majority of cases without that doesn't dismiss the ones that have other weird stuff going on. So
Dashcam 3000 Deluxe Edition says, I would buy an LVL bone from your store. Bet me. That is ghoulish, but it's funny, but that's ghoulish.
It'll come with a certificate of authenticity.
Yeah, we'll have
from
them numbered and labeled.
Yeah.
I did bring a bone home. I'm going to admit, I did bring a bone home from that expedition. I've told you guys before that I'm a bit of a magpie, but I also want things from some of these like major expeditions we do. I like to have little pieces of evidence from these major expeditions we do. So I did bring a bone home. I will admit that, much to Joe's dismay. I put it in a plastic grocery bag in the back of the car, but I brought it home. So I do have one of those.
Douglas, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead. No.
They do make solid copper extreme penetrators. They're still talking about 10 millimeter. Yeah, I actually carry a magazine of those, just straight up, usually the Ashley Extreme Penetrator rounds. I carry those, and then hardcast 200 grain, like 10 millimeter. But we carried a couple of different magazines of differing ammo with us then. So
Matt King gave us a super chat and says, thank you guys for always being awesome. But what entity do you not want to meet? Mine, honestly, any of the Pale Walker type entities. Anything we don't want to meet, anything we don't want to encounter.
It's going to drive people crazy. The thing that I don't want to encounter the most, I think that we have encountered 2 weeks ago in Georgia. So I will dodge that question with that. And when the video comes out later this week, you guys can kind of give us your input. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I got to be honest that it scares me to encounter any of these entities. It does bring in a serious level of fear. If I see an apparition, if I see a ghost, it does scare me. It does bring fear. If we are in the woods and we are dealing with something that we think might be a Dogman, I mean, there's going to be a huge level of fear there. But part of that too is kind of like a back and forth, and you're like being torn between loving to do this kind of work and being afraid.
Questioning yourself, why are you out there? Why are we out here doing this?
Yeah, we do that all the time. We're always like, why are we doing this? What is wrong with us? But I think that that's part of it, is that kind of that war with yourself is like, what, this is dangerous. Why am I doing this? But at the same time, I love doing this. So it's a double-edged sword, I guess.
Tracker wants to know, how do you highlight a name in chat to answer a question? Tracker, if you do the @ symbol and then start to type out the person's name, no space. So if you were trying to answer War Criminal 7 and you did @WAC, it's going to suggest to you all the people in the chat whose names begin like that. You select it and then start typing your message, and that person only it will be highlighted for. So hope that makes sense. So
Did Jessi just say apparition? LOL, sorry, I'm getting hungry. I might have. I'm a little mush mouth sometimes. I'm sorry. But that could be the ghost of an apple. Yes. You never know. War Criminal 7 says, the LBL is mysterious, and the 1982 massacre is shortchanging that place. So much going on there.
I don't even think, because we're eventually going to do a video on this, just because we're not trying to debunk anything or prove anything like with these established cases. But a lot of times we look into these established cases just because they're taken as like gospel, irrefutable fact. And then you look into it and I'm going, well, where did this information come from? Just because so-and-so said it and it's just been repeated so many times. So we've dug into the 82 massacre. And again, there's a lot of stuff you can't confirm with that. It's just impossible. But there's elements of that you can confirm.
Yeah.
That are not anything that would be, well, it's part of a government cover-up. Nah, not this. You know what I'm saying? You're finding original information from that time frame that has not been altered, or it would be impossible to be altered. But yeah, but like I said, a lot of people get fixated on that, but I'm not even sure that the story that everybody accepts is like is what really occurred at that point. So we actually probably just need to do a full like podcast on that and just kind of present what we have found. And you know what? It's nothing earth shaking in and of itself, but it does address some of the really key parts of that story, and it might make you think about looking at it a little differently than maybe what you walked in, what sort of preconceived notions you had about the 82 massacre. So
Nighthawk High Strangeness says CERN is not the only one. I believe you. Yes, you don't know what the global elites are up to at any point in time, but it is some weird, creepy stuff. Grace W., thank you for the $5. CERN is not just a science experiment. They're trying to touch the spiritual realm. I agree with that. I
don't even think it's the spiritual realm that they're trying to touch.
The demonic. Are we going to
I
the
don't even know
again?
I don't think they view it in terms like that. I don't think that there's a spiritual element, at least the people that are doing this and how they view it. I don't think that they view it or approach it in a spiritual manner. I had a guy that I was talking to for a while that I'm not going to go into his full story here, but he said that he had been involved, not from like a research or the actual like nuts and bolts thing, but in a supporting role to some work very similar to CERN that was going on in the United States. And he goes, just to kind of like just summarize it, to kind of, you know, they know that there's things on the other side of some sort of veil or barrier, and they're trying to breach that veil or barrier to communicate with whatever's on the other side. And I'm like, well, how do they know what it is? And he goes, they don't. You know what I'm saying? They don't know what it is. So
is this not how we get like H.P. Lovecraft stuff?
Yeah, well, honestly, that's what he kind of alluded to, is that he said that it's still that he had some like lingering stuff, like stuff came home from him that was a common occurrence in the lab, and that people were just so nobody would really look at it like, hey, the weird stuff that's going on in my house is tied into what we're doing here in the lab, because none of them really approached it like that. Yeah. They approached it from just a strictly scientific thing. And he just goes, yeah, he goes, but at the end of the day, they know that there's another, and well, they don't know. They think that there's another intelligence, not on another planet. I don't know, another reality, another dimension, whatever you want to say. And they're trying to pierce their way through it to make contact with this intelligence. So.
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
What is that?
Just something saying, what's wrong with you to do that? You know, I don't know. That's just how you get giant monsters floating through the ether here. All right. Hellbent Holler, y'all are definitely the most prepared doing this, covering as many bases as possible. Thank you, BR Gator. I appreciate it.
But what's weird is that
we are always finding new ways that we have where we get out there, and we've been like, we'll be out there. We have all of this equipment, all this gear. Something will happen, and it never fails. One of us will go, maybe if we had this.
Yeah, it definitely feels that we're chasing it with tech sometimes, and we've got a pretty good war chest of stuff to take out, but we obviously can't take it all. We have to go pretty lean so we can stay mobile. So a lot of times it's a guessing game, you know, of what we're able to take out. And even then, you know, you got to stop, take it out of your pack, deploy it. So yeah, a lot of times as much time and energy as we put into this, a lot of times I just go, man, we're just unprepared for this. You know, we should have prepared better. We should have done this, but it's really difficult to kind of anticipate what you're going to need when you're out there at this point. So I will tell you though, that going forward, we've always been big proponents of digital recorders. My plan going forward is just to blanket whatever area we're in with digital recorders going forward.
After
I'm going to up that game. And after the audio stuff that we got, my plan is to go, it doesn't make sense, but it seems like there's something to that trope of sometimes the phenomena won't let you video it or photograph it, but it will let you catch it on audio, or maybe there's something that we're not getting there. But yeah, going forward, I'm going to go even heavier on digital audio recorders than what we've done in the past. So a lot of stuff on black triangles, man. What's weird is we've been going down like an Art Bell rabbit hole lately, like listening to a lot of the old like Art Bell episodes. And I was listening to one the other day in the car, coming home from work, and he was talking about his black triangle sighting, that it was like huge. It was like the size of like 3 football fields that he thought. So happened right over his head. It blocked out the stars. So yeah, the black triangles, it's weird because those seem like they'll have dropped off the radar. They're not as widely reported. And now you're getting these like smaller, very nimble, fast moving, like, you know, UAPs, for lack of a better word, but still there's some still black triangle like stories kind of come out into the mainstream every once in a
Sightings have evolved over the years since the UAP phenomenon has been a thing, that the description of the craft has evolved over the years. That the craft that were described in the late 40s into the 50s are different from the craft described in the 70s, different from the craft described, you know, now.
It's gone back to,
and it seems like maybe they're not, I'm not maybe, but there's no thing saying that they're all from the same source, and it's just an advancement of their technology. Some of it could be weaponry used by the United States. Some of it could be weaponry from foreign governments. Some of it could be extraterrestrial. We don't know. But the descriptions of craft have kind of changed over the years.
well, that's been going on since people have been around to report the craft. Passport to Magonia, like Jacques Vallée talked about how what's being reported in the skies is generally like a couple of generations ahead of what we have then. And as we advance, what people are reporting seeing seems to advance. Back in, like, you know, medieval ages, you know, people were reporting seeing ships, like actual boats up in the air. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why they thought Magonia was a thing. Magonia was supposed to be a kingdom that existed in the clouds, but they would have strange airship sightings back in like the 19th century. People were seeing what basically amounted to futuristic looking hot air balloons up in the sky, you know? And so it seems like as our tech has progressed, the way this thing or these things present themselves to us progresses as well. So
yeah.
And it's weird too, because there'd be a good episode for us to do, because it used to present itself in a spiritual manner to us, like the gods, the fae, everything like that, you know. A lot of like what folklore is based around. And then as we've become more of a technologically based society, it's like the phenomenon became technologically
has adapted to our sensibilities,
at least the way it presents itself, as to what we are focused on ourselves. So if you give any credence to Jacques Vallée's control system, that these aren't visitors from like another planet, you know, traveling through space and coming here, that it's something that we can't quite put our finger on, that's presenting itself in a way to kind of guide us, and not necessarily positively guide us, to maybe manipulate us, but but the way it's presented itself has changed over time as we've changed ourselves. So
Jay Myers says, y'all ever use a parabolic dish? We have one from Wildtronics that we use. We actually connect it to our Zoom H4n Pro, but it is a bit cumbersome to hike through the woods because the dish itself is sizable. It doesn't fold or anything like that. It's a solid piece of material, and it's lightweight, but there's a lot there. We have to put it up on a tripod. It has a microphone that you have to be very careful with so that you don't damage it, and then you have to connect it into the recorder so that you get a high quality recording. And then because the microphone itself runs on phantom power, you have to have a battery backup on it as well, because it will drain that recorder so quickly that it's just useless to have out there. So you have to have all of these things for this parabolic dish set up to function properly. And like we always say, we always hike everything out on our backs and our backpacks. So whatever we use, we have to have it mobile. So we do use the parabolic, but only when we're doing static investigations, if we're doing what we call kind of a stakeout. So if we find an area that has a good vantage point over a few valleys, which we have one of those in our main research area, if we find an area like that, we'll set up the parabolic dish and set it all up with everything going, do the mass recording, and kind of scan the valleys and see if we hear anything. We'll also set up the psionics color night vision, and we'll set up a thermal as well. We have kind of a 3 tripod system for when we do our stakeouts and our static investigations. But I hope that helps with more information about the dish. It's really nice. It's actually designed to be used in bird watching. But yeah, it's made by Wildtronics. It's great. It's a great piece of equipment, a great piece of tech, but it can be cumbersome when it comes to hiking out, but it's wonderful when it comes to doing stakeouts.
Yeah. And it, like I said, it's hard to deploy. It takes time to do that. You got to have backup power source for it. We actually got it because we were hearing some like weird, like faux speech, almost sounded like a higher pitched, fainter version of the Sierra sounds part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't pick it up with any of our mics. So that's when we decided we needed to get a parabolic setup. And then we've never really got anything on it since then. So it's cumbersome. It's difficult to put up, but Pyromedic, try a bull roar. Yeah. I'm actually toying around with the idea about that because a properly made bull roar will actually give higher frequency infrasound. You're right into the infrasound range. So when I was thinking about trying to generate infrasound in the woods just to see what would happen, that was one of the ideas I kind of went through, was actually trying like a bull roar just to see what it would do. And that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up. It's something that I'm still toying around trying to do in the future. So
my little MacGyver over here building all of his
little MacGyver. So
we really want to get the Dooster to build us a SLS camera, just because we're so obsessed with the SLS camera, because we do watch Ghost Adventures. That is like one of the early things that got us into kind of paranormal investigating and like kind of filming this stuff is Ghost Adventures. And when they deployed that SLS camera for that first time, we were both like the Sticky Boy 5000. So yeah, just it's cool to have all this tech and like use all this, varied tech to do this kind of work. Cryptokeeper says, have you ever guys thought of leaving a dash cam running while you were out searching?
We will usually have a camera running and an audio recorder running near our car.
Yes,
so,
because we did have an incident.
Yeah.
Not a human incident, but it would have been a human.
We don't know.
We got back to our truck one time and we got in, we put everything in the truck, got in the car, got in there, and I think my headlamp was on or something. And we I don't know if we filmed this or not. We never put it in an episode if we did. I think my headlamp was on or something. And I look over at Joe, my headlamp's on, and he's in the driver's seat. And his window had like a series of like numbers
on it on the side
and letters
that was written so that it wouldn't appear backwards to us inside the car. It was very odd.
Yeah, it was written really where if we were sitting in the car, it read normally. So somebody wrote it on there backwards. So when you sit in the car, you see it the right way. It was very odd.
We drove out at night so you could see it with the headlamp. And then when we checked it the next morning, and it was extremely visible in the daylight. So it was not like that when we drove up there. There was no missing it. We do that nowadays. We leave a hidden camera running on the car, and we leave a digital audio recorder going just to see if anything happens. So
Ghetto Yeti says, have you guys seen or read about the experiments at Mount Wilson Ranch that Bigelow did with Jacques Vallée?
No,
we will definitely check that out. Joe's going to look that up because we love Jacques Vallée. Jill Duck was mentioning earlier, it's up here, that she thinks that all of these entities are actually demonic. Joe is definitely saddled in that camp as well, that these are demonic in nature.
Oh, yeah. I don't know a lot about Mount Wilson, but that's where they were looking at before they went to Skinwalker Ranch. I knew they were looking somewhere, but I don't know any particulars. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to bookmark that and go down that little rabbit hole when we get out of here. So
Matt Keene says, have you heard Dave Paulides' theory on Bigfoot being another race of humans?
Yeah, and it's weird because when he first started talking, he would say that they were just another tribe of people that maybe had some like unique abilities. And it seems like
this is when he was doing the Hoopa Project.
Yeah, Hoopa Project and all that. And now it seems like if you see some of his stuff, and we don't watch as much of his stuff as maybe we should, but again, it's a time issue, but it seems like he is getting more into the interdimensional
the focus on that second, Missing 411. Oh, no, it wasn't the second one. It was the special he did.
Yeah, it was all like
focus on that was like
portals and all that. So it's gonna be interesting to see. And we've seen him speak with Ron Moorhead before, and the two of them, just some of the things they say off the cuff, makes me think that maybe his opinion has evolved over time.
Yeah.
That he just doesn't think it's maybe another tribe of hairy people with just a few extra abilities. It's weird because we were watching, we don't go to a lot of conferences or anything like that. It's our time's better spent doing other stuff, but we will go see David Paulides or Ron Moorhead speak. And they were both speaking at, was it the Smoky Mountain
Bigfoot?
And somebody was talking about, one of the other people in some panel discussion was talking about how there needed to be protections put into place for the Sasquatch, and they needed to be protected, and da 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 da. And Ron Moorhead goes, I don't think they need protected from us. I think we need protected from them.
Yeah.
And David Paulides turns around and kind of gives him a thumb, one of these like, you're right on. And then basically spent 5 minutes backing that point up. And you really walked away with both of them just saying that, hey, these things are from somewhere else entirely, and they do not have our best interests at heart. I
tell you, seeing David Paulides and Ron Moorhead share the stage and have like a very candid discussion about this and really defend their points against people who were adamantly against the idea of Sasquatch being anything paranormal or extra dimensional or anything like that, or interdimensional, or anything more than just a monkey running through the woods. They had to seriously back up their points and really defend that position. And
they couldn't do it. So
they could do it. Yeah.
I was saying they
defended their position.
They tried to, but they didn't defend it well against David. Are you talking about against David Paulides?
No, I'm saying David Paulides had to defend against these people attacking him.
I don't even think that he defended against them. I think they were defending against him.
Yeah.
Because he and Ron Moorhead just pretty much controlled the discussion.
They just destroyed them. Yes. Yeah. The apers. We call the people who just think that Sasquatch is some dumb monkey running through the woods. We call them apers. That's but like, yeah, I mean, like it was no contest because they just got so angry at David Paulides and Ron Moorhead because they dared to say that
it might be something else,
that there was some sort of paranormal bent to this, but the evidence is definitely pointing towards that. All right. I know every time it's quiet, I go, all right, everybody. Hello.
Hold on. So David Hunt had asked, and I'm way behind on the chat, guys. Sorry. But do you think the electric sounds can be connected to what Mark from A Trail to Bigfoot was talking about and encountered? Possibly. It definitely seems to go hand in hand with people encountering like a physical sort of entity, a physical creature of some sort. And it definitely does. There's a lot of thoughts out there, whether it's a sound of something coming from somewhere else, if there is a, maybe like a portal opening, something coming through like a dimensional rift. You hear people talking about even like coming from like subterranean tunnels, and there's like a physical like hatch that they come out of. But that's one of the things that seems to go hand in hand. I'm really interested in the fact that is there, because, a lot of like Sasquatch encounters, people report a smell, like a strange smell. Sulfur, the smell of sulfur has always been associated with like the demonic, the paranormal, everything like that. But people report like a sulfurous smell with like UFO activity and Sasquatch and even Dogman sightings. So what I'm really curious about right now is how often is this sulfur smell and this metallic sound, how often do those happen together? And are they both byproducts of the act of this creature coming into our reality or whatever? But that's what I'm really interested right now. I'm really trying to, it's slow going, but trying to compile data where you see that people report both that sound and a sulfur-like smell. It might not be anything, they might be unrelated, but I've got a feeling there's some sort of relation going on there. So.
Shelly, did you have, okay.
No.
Shelly Vidal says, is it chicken of me to limit what I listen to about paranormal and cryptic entities? Because I'm not experienced anything that I'm aware of, but I hear a lot of people say that after they've been listening, they have been. So you're opening up your mind to it. You're more aware of it. This is your choice. Like somebody said later on in the chat, as long as you're spiritually protecting yourself, being aware of it, it's okay to listen to these podcasts. It's okay to watch these programs, as it just makes you more aware of what the possibilities of things out there are, that there could be these creatures out there, that there could be these demonic entities, these paranormal entities. But as long as you are spiritually protected, and that you're aware of what's going on and that you have your situational awareness on you, I think you're going to be okay. Grace W says, Shelly, pray for protection. I agree. Yeah. I definitely agree with that.
Steven says, I used to think the only connection between Bigfoots and UAPs was that both are easier to see on a moonlit night. Yeah, like I said, and again, there are standalone UFO sightings. Obviously, there are standalone Sasquatch sightings. I still think that, like I say every time we do this, that there's more than one type of phenomena that is occurring that we're lumping under Sasquatch. There might be more than one type of creature, entity, or whatever. There might be more than one big hairy thing that we're seeing out there that have completely different origins, but they might behave in a somewhat similar manner or a dissimilar manner. Every time I hear people go, well, that's not what Bigfoot do. Bigfoot do this. For every case that you have where Bigfoot does A, give me 5 seconds. I'll find you a case where Bigfoot does B, does something completely different. So, but yeah, I think that it's not always intertwined, or maybe it is, and we just don't notice. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, again, the record keeping has been so fragmented on this and has been edited to serve people's personal theories on this. Instead of just taking the data and see what it is, people come with a preconceived notion. It's a monkey. So anything that doesn't back that up is obviously wrong and gets kicked out.
Yeah.
So at the end, you just end up with stories saying it's a monkey because that's what the person who compiled those stories, that's the end result that they wanted. So.
What the Flock says, I'm curious to know your thoughts on those translucent predator type creatures. There's a lot of reports about that. And as I've mentioned before, that there was that remote viewing operation the government did. Was it Project Stargate? And they talked about Dogman, and they talked about how the fur of the Dogman is like a bioweapon in a way, or bio armor, and that it could cause it to reflect or refract light and cause it to be translucent. That's an example of like the Dogman and that. But a lot of people say it's like a Bigfoot thing, that it's like cloaking that can be done. And some folks attribute that to infrasound, but that makes absolutely no sense. Like that. Joe has mentioned before where that gentleman said that he thought the infrasound was vibrating his eyeballs to the point of him seeing shadows in the corners of his eyes, but it turns out that is physically impossible. So a lot of people will attribute this cloaking to infrasound affecting them instead of it being something coming from the creature and actually like a physical manipulation of the creature. I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting thought. It's scary. You have a lot of people who talk about seeing that kind of shift in that kind of that outline-ish thing in the woods, that they see the leaves around and everything, but there's that predator effect. So I think it's an interesting concept, and that scares me that whatever this is can actually do something like that.
So I had to look up the guy's name because I can never remember it. And I still can't pronounce it, even though that I looked at it. Okay. Tom Bar, it's Bauerle, and it doesn't really get a lot of attention, but this guy was claiming that he was claiming that people were stalking him using advanced technology, including cloaking devices, similar to what people talk about when they talk about the predator cloaking. They ended up committing him to like a psychiatric ward because everybody thought that he had lost it. Well, I mean, he eventually got like some private detectives hired. And there was like a big court case where I encourage you guys to Google it. There's like several stories out there. Tom Bauerle. And it turned out that there was a nearby university that was testing technology for the military, and they thought that some people at this university might have been like stalking him. He was a radio host, and I guess he had said some things of a political nature on one of his radio shows that a lot of people took exception to. So they decided to basically start gang stalking him, for lack of a better word. So it's an interesting story, but one of the things he talked about was that kind of cloaking thing, that he would see shapes in his backyard that seemed to have that ripple effect like the predator did. So if this is true, and they ended up settling out of court because they didn't want a lot of this to go to trial, because they didn't want to talk about what projects that the university might be involved with. They ended up settling with this guy, but obviously if we have it, other things might have it as well. And that's just such a it's weird because when that first started coming out, I'm thinking, people are just taking that from the movies because it sounds cool. But a lot of people report that. A lot of people report that kind of hazy, kind of shimmering, kind of like outline. So I definitely think that's a possibility. So that's occurring. We saw something similar in North Carolina one time, and the way I described it was it looked like saran wrap had been stretched out in the vague shape of a person, and it was catching raindrops on it because it was like lightly raining while we were out. And when I kind of moved up to where it was, I couldn't make out where it was then. I'm just going, I don't know if my eyes were playing tricks on me, but that's what it appeared to be. Like it was something like just saran wrap suspended in midair in the shape of a person, and it was catching raindrops on it. So whether that was just, it was a real like heavily like forested area, lots of vegetations. That might have just been the fact that my eyes were seeing raindrops on the leaves, and I was just seeing something that wasn't there. But it was definitely something that we talked about on that trip, and it was enough to make me walk back to look to see if it was actually there. So, Cowboy Five Rings asked, this documentary, the father and son, Michael and Stephen, that take photos of the Jersey Devil, complained to have multiple sightings. No, I have not. I'm not familiar with that documentary, and I know you made that comment a while ago that we're still going through the chat here. But
yeah,
but no, if you know the name of that specifically, please put that in the chat. I'd like to see that. So,
my gang stalking here at the bottom.
Stephen Tyler, if you asked Jill Duck, have you ever read of Michael Heiser's books? I just saw like a Michael Heiser documentary that just popped up onto YouTube, and the name of it escapes me, but I'm interested in looking into that. I don't like preclude a lot of that strictly biblical viewpoint theories about this stuff, because I think that even if you're not a religious person, there's a very good chance that people back then were experiencing the same things, and that's just how they chose to describe it, was in terms that eventually became, biblical worldview. Or they're right, and there is there's good and evil, and there's these things are demonic. So, but yeah, it's Michael Heiser's really a very interesting guy. So,
Jill Duck says, at the risk of sounding like a total nut, I'm starting to think that technology is a way the demonic entities influence and ensnare humans mentally and spiritually. Yeah, what do you see everybody doing? What most people doing all the time? They have their phones out. They constantly have earbuds in their ears. So they're constantly listening to something. They're constantly on their phone. You don't know if you've got something that's, subversive. You don't know. You just don't know. But your brain is constantly engaged with this technology for most people. They're not aware of their surroundings. They're just wandering through life completely engaged and completely ensnared by technology. So if there was some sort of demonic entity that could possibly go through those channels, that would be a perfect medium to travel through to get through and straight into the human psyche. There's also a lack of spiritualism amongst people. So a lot of people don't have that spiritual guard anymore. They have completely rejected spiritualism or religion or God or anything for that matter like that. It's all just this worship of what you see before you and not worship of what you feel inside of you or what you have experienced. And I think that it's not having that spiritual armor and refusing to have spiritual armor and then constantly being engaged with technology could easily open the door to something evil. Cryptoville says the phone is a mirror to a reality that your mind can't differentiate. Yeah, and you're constantly bombarded with images of, everybody puts their best version forward on social media, and you only see the best of what people have, and it gives a lot of people a lot of anxiety and stress because they can't seem to keep up. And when you have that anxiety and stress, you always enter into like kind of a dark spot, mentally and physically and spiritually, because you can't seem to keep up with the Joneses because you only see the best of everyone and you don't seem to be able to relate to people anymore. And I think that makes you vulnerable to attack from demonic entities. Let's see here. Henry John says, if one thinks one's a nut today, yeah, if you dare question any sort of narrative, you are obviously the problem here. Burn the witch.
Jay Myers, for all the equipment you haul, you need a person the size of a linebacker. We are constantly refining this, and we did for a while make the mistake of trying to carry too much stuff just because we weren't sure what we were going to encounter whenever we were out. But then you run the risk of not really being able to use anything because it takes so long to stop, unpack it, dig through everything in your pack, deploy the equipment. So now we just basically choose a few things a piece out of everything we've got, and we just go from there. So
Alan Lassiter says, do y'all think these things, Dogman / Bigfoot, are chipped by the government and that's why they haven't found one yet? I think the government is fully aware of the existence of these entities.
And I think the government might be responsible for some of these
Some
entities.
of them possibly, yeah.
Others, I don't think they are.
But I think that they are absolutely, I think they're absolutely aware of them, that they know they exist. They have to know they exist, right? At this point, they know they exist but they either are denying it or they have a hand in it. You guys talking about gang stalking?
Yeah, like I said, it's a really interesting story. I'm gonna put.
Was that a part of that article that you were reading, the gang stalking?
Well, they didn't really come. I
dipped out for a minute.
This is just a really brief. I'm gonna put this in the chat. This is just, I don't even know if this is a good article or a bad article. I just brought it up just to try to get the guy's last name because I could never remember it. But that's there for you guys want to check it out. But it definitely seemed like this guy was being stalked by people associated with the government. Maybe not, they were not government employees, but they were doing research on behalf of the government. And they were using technology that's not supposed to exist right now. Technology similar to what some people are reporting out there. So
Glenn Snyder says, I think if you accept that these phenomenons are connected, the closer you are getting to your answer. Do you agree? I don't think we are any closer to any answer.
Actually, that makes us, yeah, exactly. It makes us more confused, but I think that's what it is. I mean, I think that's where it's at. It's not, and I think people separate it because it's easier to digest.
Yeah, I think it's easier for them to kind of focus in one area or another. When people compartmentalize and they say, I'm a ghost person, I'm a Dogman person, I'm a Bigfoot person, and they refuse to accept the connections that they see before them. Maybe it's just easier for them to process and focus in one area or the other. But yeah, I think with us accepting the theory that these things are all connected, that adds more questions like, how are they connected? Why are they connected?
I'm more confused than ever
after
doing this.
Did they meet at a mixer? What's happening here? It adds more confusion to the whole thing rather than if everything was compartmentalized, it simplifies it in a way, like how can something that is similar to a relict hominid that walks the earth, how is that connected to something that could be extra dimensional or interdimensional? How could this be? How could these things have connections? And so if they're connected, you have to make those connections as well, and that's too many connections.
I just think that humans we spend all of our time looking for answers. I mean, the gathering of knowledge to understand things. And people want to quantify stuff and put stuff in like a box that's easily recognizable. And people like mysteries for entertainment, but at the end they want an answer. They don't like walking away and everybody likes instant gratification nowadays. So people want an answer. So people, I think, have a tendency they're going to put something in a box, whether it fits in that box or not, just so they can quantify it, just so they can try to understand it. It's difficult for people just to go, it's a mystery. I mean, we'll see stuff online all the time where people just seem like they've got all this figured out, man. And I'm just going, all right. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know. I mean, it just seems like the more we experience it, it's so unlike everything else on Earth that like I said, I mean, I don't feel that we're any closer to figuring this out. I feel that we're further away but I think now we're honing in on the right questions to ask. Maybe, we're not getting the answers, but maybe we're trying to narrow in on the right set of questions that we need to be asking about this. So.
And I think I've made this kind of like analogy before that it feels like a lot of the time when we do this, that there's like this 1,000-piece puzzle before us and we don't even have a single piece laid down on the board yet.
Yeah.
That I don't know if we'll ever complete this. I don't know if we'll ever get it all together. Dewey's going to bed. Good night, Dewey.
Good night, Dooster.
Good night, Dooster. What the Flock says, have you heard that Dogman are government super soldiers creation that isn't quite perfected?
That's going around a lot right now.
Yeah, that seems to be a common thought right now that these are super weapons that are created.
A couple things about the sulfur smell, what the flock, sulfur smell especially associated with that. War criminal, sulfur demonic. Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff. There's a sulfur smell that is associated with certain UFO sightings. There, again, I'm sure it's worldwide, but European folklore especially has sulfur smell associated with some of like the encounters with like the Fae. There's obviously sulfur smells that are associated with paranormal activity, with Sasquatch activity, with Dogman activity. So it seems like it's a common thing. Does that mean they're all demonic? Possibly. No.
All right.
So, Tales from the Dark Side. I smelled a skunky odor mixed with urine and BO after I had a supernatural whistle at my home outside at night. It was a hitchhiker Bigfoot. Yeah, like I said, that seems to be more common than usual. People usually will talk about that musky smell.
He was from Asheville.
Oh, gotcha. So
no, that's a joke.
The Bigfoot. Oh, okay,
Bigfoot.
gotcha.
So. It's a joke.
But yeah, like I said, that seems to be it seems to be more common than what maybe people are thinking that it is. So.
Sheila Ebelin says, I just don't think it's all or nothing. I think that all of these creatures or phenomenon exists on a continuum. We don't know what plane they exist in. We don't know if they can pass in and out of our existence or our reality and into another. We don't know if they're from another time, another place. We just don't know. And I think that any kind of theory that you can put forth that, isn't, well, maybe any kind of theory you can put forward should be entertained and should be questioned and should be discussed. Correct?
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's like all or nothing either. I think there's a lot of gray area that's involved with this. That's why when I hear people that are just so just hidebound with what they're saying, I mean, maybe they're right. I don't know. Maybe they've had a different set of experiences that we have, and maybe they've actually got some proof and the evidence that they're just not sharing with everybody else. But I hear a lot of people with a lot of theories. Not even theories. I hear a lot of people that are just saying, hey, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. Can you show me how you arrived at that conclusion? No, I can't tell you. So, I mean, if you can't tell me, then why'd you bring it up in the first place? But yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot of gray area with a lot of this stuff. So, I saw something. Todd Hall had asked what we think about remote viewing. I don't know. I mean, I'm familiar with all of the Ingo Swann, everything like that, all of the lore, the Stargate guys that you mentioned earlier. I am suspicious of all of this phenomena. I don't think any of this stuff has our best interests at heart. And at best, I think that you could maybe just think it's indifferent and just kind of toying with us. Would you agree with that?
Well, and remote viewing could be you opening up your mind for it to project whatever the other wants to project.
Yeah, you're getting
mind.
Information. Well, how do you know where it's coming from?
You don't know where it's coming from. Yeah. You don't know who it's coming from, but you're opening up yourself and your mind to the other and whatever entity you're connecting with that is possibly projecting something into your mind. You don't know that you're seeing some other location or some event. You might just be having something projected into your brain from some, as we've talked about up into this point, demonic entities. You don't know. So when you open yourself up in such a way without any sort of spiritual protection of any kind, it seems like a dangerous kind of gamble, because you don't know what you're looking at, and the human mind can be manipulated so easily, as we have seen.
I would always worry that whatever is sending you that information, you can't be sure of what's telling you this. Mm-hmm. Is it going to give you true information on stuff that you can verify? Hey, I'm looking for this crashed plane. The crashed plane is at this location. You find it. So then you just start treating everything that it tells you as gospel, and then maybe it gives you bad information on stuff that you can't verify. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Or maybe it's a completely legitimate phenomenon. I know that I always am suspicious of anything that is related to this anomalous activity. I don't take any of it at face value. So I don't know. Like I said, I know that people have had success with it, but I would be afraid that it was something giving you the proper information in order to give you the wrong information at the exact worst time. So,
yeah. Mojo Mahajo says, one thing is clear that these things have interdimensional abilities. It's the purpose I don't understand. Why are they in the woods hunting and running naked?
Maybe they're hunting and running naked in their home reality. And that's maybe they just come up. It's got to be intelligently controlled, because we don't see Bigfoot or Dogman or UFOs popping into Times Square at 3 p.m. on a Friday afternoon and then just traveling 20 yards and then disappearing. Obviously, it's being intelligently controlled to come out of the time and a place of their choosing. And sometimes it lets you see it, and other times it's more elusive.
Yeah.
I think that people lose.
Well, it obviously chooses to present itself, and there's been the discussion that whatever these entities are, we'll just call them together, whatever, that it refuses to be photographed or doesn't want to be photographed, but it seems like audio is okay.
Yeah.
That there is some sort of control there, that there is some sort of toying, a trickster element, if you will. But yeah.
Well, I mean, again, when I say alien, I don't mean from another planet, although they might be, who knows, but alien in that it's incomprehensible to man. It's something that's alien to you. It's foreign to you. Maybe these things are so alien that we're looking at it from a human viewpoint, through like a human lens, human experiences, and how we interact with the environment and why we do the things we do. You're dealing with something that's alien, and you're looking at it going, why is it doing this? I mean, it might make perfect sense to them, and it just doesn't make perfect sense to us because we just don't know enough about it. So
yeah. Glenn Snyder says, if there are other dimensions, they could be from there, and for whatever reason they cross here, and some may get stuck and live here, others may come and go.
See, I don't even think they live here, because I think that if these things were here permanently, we would
have more proof.
Unless the government's got one and we don't know. I mean, that's the thing. But I don't think that there's a breeding population of anything here, unless it's a breeding population that the government is actively managing, just because it seems like we would have something at that point, you know? But like we've talked about before, a cover-up is so easy to accomplish. Maybe people find these things not on a regular basis, but they found them before, and it's just been covered up at that point. So people going on about gang stalking. We need to do a gang stalking episode now, man. That's right up your alley. So
it is right up my alley.
If you ever want to just go down a dark, disturbing, just dive into the internet, go find a gang stalking site where people are victims of it. I don't know whether it's true or not. I don't know, but that is just some of the craziest stuff that you will ever see, what people claim that they are subjected to. But yeah, look at some of these gang stalking, like, I don't know, gang stalking, like, not survivors, witnesses, experiencers, whatever you want to call it, but it's crazy stuff. So
Dumpster Diving Dogman says, maybe entities are advanced to the point that sitting in a lavish mansion is less interesting than living in an unpredictable wilderness and swamp.
Well, all right. So that same thing I thought about with the UAPs before. People are like, well, you know, if they want us to see them, why don't they just land on the White House lawn? If they want to stay hidden, as advanced they are, why don't they just stay hidden? And I'm like, maybe they're just out joyriding. Maybe they're just bored. Out. Yeah, maybe this is just, again, if you want to humanize it and put like a human intention behind what you're seeing, maybe it's some form of entertainment for them. Maybe it's the equivalent of us going surfing. You know, maybe the fish see us surfing and are like, what is this? You know, maybe it's just the equivalent of that. The other thing that's interesting is there's a train of thought out there that what you visibly see is a small part of the actual UAP. That's just the part that you can see of it. That there's another part out there, and there's some thought that the footage that the government's not releasing, that they've picked up with like some of the more advanced instrumentation that we have, shows something different than just a little tic tac or a little blurb or something like that. So
yeah. I do appreciate the depth of conversation that we all get into, because it I don't know, it kind of surprises me every week, like how insightful and thoughtful everybody
gets. And it's such a
very refreshing to actually have these conversations with you guys, because you know, all too often it seems like the paranormal and Bigfoot, Dogman world is so very just about beefs and topical stuff and weird things that just don't take a lot of thought, you know, and it's very ego driven. This is a really, really insightful, interesting conversation about paranormal entities. I really enjoy doing this with you guys. I really do.
Dashcam 3000 Deluxe Edition. I just want to say that it's an interesting channel. Dashcam apparently is a sentient dashcam that will talk about what his master does every once in a while. So yeah, it's good stuff. Sentient dashcam that's somehow posting to YouTube in our comment section. So Jill Duck, I completely agree not to trust that stuff. I'm assuming you talk about remote viewing, and I'm not saying that I guess I'm saying I don't have enough data to have an opinion one way or another, but that I approach everything cautiously and with suspicion with this. We will have people contact us with their encounters and they're talking about how great these things are, and oh, we feed it and it loves me and I have a relationship with it. And I'm just going, I mean, we're humanizing it. We're Disneyfying it, like we call, just like Walt Disney has made people think that bears and buffalo and everything like that are just they sing and dance. And then you see about people getting killed by bears and buffalo all the time because they don't realize that they're wild animals. I'm always just suspicious of this stuff. So I know that there's people out there that practice remote viewing and other people say that they're extremely accurate and knowledgeable, and they might very well be, you know what I'm saying? I don't have enough of it. And I instinctively distrust information coming from somewhere else when I don't know the source.
Correct.
Does that make sense? So,
and I'd rather just go myself. If I want to go check out somewhere, how about I just go there? What the Flock says, they're out in the woods during night investigation, hoping to capture human evidence. Well, that flips the script, doesn't it?
There's a human element to some of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's connected to, there is human activity that does not seem like it makes sense going on in the woods sometimes in these areas where we are capturing.
No, I think he's saying that the Bigfoot are out there.
Oh, they're out there doing that. Okay, gotcha.
They're doing investigations.
Hey, you know what? That's actually, yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Maybe they're coming here to I don't know. Again, maybe you're dealing with a civilization that evolved in such a different way from us that because when we think of how we evolved, it was very linear to us, at least. Maybe another civilization looks at it and goes, it's odd that they went this route where they dig ore out of the ground and they basically melt it and refine it and they build these objects. Maybe they have physical abilities that precludes the need for all this technology. Maybe they're coming here to explore as well. That's a really good point. I didn't even get that that's what you were talking about at first. So
Dashcam 3000, the government made me out of patent and for sale.
Tracker wants to know what state we're last expedition on. North Georgia. So North Georgia mountains is where we were. We've been at several times before, but it just took an odd little turn last time. So
Matt Keene says, I'm going to see what happens tonight after finding that ritual looking animal parts and see what kind of activity I get tonight. Hopefully I'll get some evidence to share. Matt, please be careful with everything you're doing. You scare me sometimes because you've got a lot going on. And you've got all this weird stuff around you. Just protect yourself and be careful. That's all that I ask when you get involved in all of this. Did you have one? Did you
no.
I thought you almost said one.
No. Yeah, and actually, I'm gonna you handle this for a second. Matt King's got a lot of weird stuff going on. We had a chance to meet him face to face at Wild and Weird Con. He actually did a podcast, or actually a YouTube interview recently. I'm going to see if I can find the link for that. And
What the Flock says, it's refreshing to us as well. We don't know what's going on. We all have questions and theories. It opens up everyone's minds to countless possibilities that anything is possible. Yeah, and nobody has the answers to any of this stuff. Nobody has definitive proof of anything. Otherwise, we would know about it by now. But nobody has all the answers. Nobody has a solid theory that is backed up by anything at this point. All we can do is kind of posit these ideas and discuss them and go out and collect as much data as we can get. That's where we come in. We go out there and we collect that data. We get as much data as we can, but it seems like the more that we go out there and the more that we kind of interlope and connect with these entities, that we have more questions as a result. So I don't think anybody will have any of the answers. When people talk about with Sasquatch, they know their social structures and they know all this other stuff. And it's like, where are you getting this information? You have nothing to show where you're getting this information. It sounds like a lot of fishing stories. You're sitting at the at the local general store telling fishing stories at this point. There's no data there. However, just because there's no data, you can't posit a theory, but you can never just say that you know exactly what's going on. So,
and I know some people have had different experiences than us, and some people have had things happen to them that make them completely certain of what's going on, and that may or may not be true. I don't know. We haven't had those same experiences. As you can tell, we're data driven. We try to investigate stuff as deeply as we possibly can, and there's patterns to be seen. You know what I'm saying? There's certain patterns that you can look at. I mean, there's certain patterns that show up, but here's the deal: there's a multitude of patterns that show up. But when people are talking about how they know that the Sasquatch smell like sulfur because they are bathing in hot springs to get rid of the ticks that are on them, and that's the smell, and they know exactly the hot spring that they bathe at, and they know the times that they're there and everything like that, and they talk about just the most minute detail of like their social structure and everything like that, and I'm going, come on, man. I mean, this is like to a level beyond like Diane Fossey, for gosh sakes. And you know all of this, but why do you not have anything? Why do you not even have video of you out there trying to capture evidence of it? It's just these stories. So a lot of stuff like that, whenever somebody has like too much detail, I don't necessarily dismiss them. I just become kind of suspicious and a little interested on how they got so much detail without having anything to back that detail up.
mm-hmm.
I shared a link to Matt Keene's interview on Odd Virginia as well.
Perfect. Mojo Mahojo says, other than Bigfoot / Dogman, I remember you guys saw one hunched over dark entity walking and disappeared. Later that night, you heard a cry, scream. Did you ever find out what that was? No, we have no idea. That's from the LBL Werewolf Experiments series. I saw the dark entity with the long limbs that was kind of hunched over and walking. I saw that first, and I saw that near the abandoned tent that we found. And Joe saw it later on near one of that old metal building, and where we found that
clothing,
boot
yeah,
and those pants. And that was the exact area. So where Joe saw the dark entity was the exact area where later on in the evening we heard like that singing and that crying and screaming in the woods.
And we
have that. If you watch the video, I know a lot of you have seen the video. If you haven't seen the video, go check that out. You can hear it. You don't even need headphones to hear it. And it's just screaming and crying and like singing in the woods. It's so strange. We could not figure out what that was. We went that way with flashlights. We didn't see anybody. We didn't see anything. We went up and down the roads. There was nobody parked out there. There was no people out there. It was freezing cold, and we were completely alone in that part of the LBL for sure, because we always check for other people, because we don't want human contamination of our evidence. So we always check to see if there's any other people around that could possibly be making noise or, hooting and hollering or whatever. So we always check that, and there was absolutely nobody around. But if you watch that video, you can totally hear what sounds like crying and screaming and singing in the woods. It was real weird.
But Bill says, last time I heard about ritual animal parts, the guy ended up getting chased by a blacked out van across several counties. We had a similar encounter, but it was a white van, and we didn't necessarily get chased. But after we found some of the ritual activity up in North Georgia, we started seeing a white van that was very out of place on the roads that we were in, just because we were up there in a 4-wheel drive, and we were a little sketchy in some of the areas that we were traveling over, and it just seemed like an odd place for a white van with a couple of guys to be trying to follow us around. So It could have just been, I don't know, could have been anything, but it was weird that you mentioned that. So
Dashcam 3000 is going. Just going.
With an attack drone. Okay. Talking about the elongated sculls and one of those things.
The Paracas.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ron Lanham did a really beautiful sculpt of that. I think he was selling those. He did a beautiful sculpt of those. He's with Wild and Weird West Virginia.
Jill Duck says she loves how everybody is respectful of each other's ideas and comments on this channel. No belittling going on. Oh, absolutely. We're not into this to argue with people. I mean, I even said I don't even be disparaging when I say that people have like very detailed information on their social structure. I'm not going to call that person a liar. I just want to know how did you come about that information?
How did you get to this
Take
point?
me from point A to point B to point C in it. I just want to know. I mean, again, that's what our problem is with this, is that we're all involved in something that normal people think is crazy, and they think that we're crazy for being involved with it. And then everybody that's involved with this sort of thing gets a certain amount of persecution, whether it's like good-natured or maybe not so good-natured in your personal lives. So what do? You run off to the internet and you start persecuting other people who believe 99% of what you do, but there's maybe just a 1% difference in it. At the end of the day, I think everybody's looking for answers as best they can. So even if I don't necessarily agree with you, I'm going to bring case in point, Central Florida Bigfoot was on earlier, and we were listening to an interview that he was doing. He's an extremely insightful guy, and he approaches this. He's a photojournalist. He was talking about he had some doubts about the Patterson-Gimlin film from just the way that the footage was taken. Now, he said he wasn't necessarily, didn't disbelieve it. He just thought that he said that there were some questions he had on it. And I'm going, that's a avenue of like approach that I'd never really thought of before, looking at it from like an actual filmmaker or like a photojournalist standpoint.
Yeah, not just like from a body mechanics
standpoint or how it moves or how it walks or everything like that. I just thought that was and you always hear a lot of stuff about the camera, what setting was the camera on, how far away, what film were they using, this, but just the actual act of filming it. And he had some questions about it. And I just thought that's such a unique perspective that I hadn't really thought of before. So yeah, like I said, I mean, it's you don't want to be in an echo chamber. She and I disagree on a lot of stuff. We're disagreeing on some of the stuff that happened to us a couple of weekends ago, but the moment you surround yourself with just
yes men,
you're not going to go any further than that. So.
No, you need to be challenged and you need to ask questions. I think that's what has gotten us this far in life, is that we don't just accept what's presented to us. Shelley Vidal says, well, I do watch a lot of primate type things, and I do know that primates are so smart. They do have a family hierarchy big time. That's assuming these things are primates. So I don't think these things are primates. I don't think these are relic hominins. I don't think these are undiscovered apes in the woods. But that is also my opinion.
Yep.
So.
Two quick ones here. Dumpster diving Dogman, Joe calling BS in a nice way, and then Cryptidville going, you're correct to view these people in a suspect light. That they're not going to say they're full of it, but they're full of it. Some of you people that have been involved in this for all, I know exactly who I'm talking about when I talked about the sulfur spring thing and the ticks. And it's a good story, and a lot of it's very good story. And it's just that, but if you're claiming that somebody on your expedition got picked up over the shoulder of Bigfoot and it was carrying him away in full sight of everybody on your expedition, and he pulled his 44 out and shot it off next to the thing's ear to make him drop him. And then you guys just go back to doing what you were doing. It just happens. All it happens every time we're out. And you don't have anything to back that. I mean, not even if you couldn't get the Sasquatch on footage, but you obviously want the attention. I mean, you're out here doing an interview. You have no problem putting yourself onto media. You don't have any footage just to show the guy shaking afterwards, anything at all. It's odd. I mean, some of the stuff that we experience, we can't pick up on the camera or the microphones. And you can believe us or don't believe us, or believe us and maybe think that we were mistaken. Whatever you think, you'll at least see that we were there.
You'll at least see that we're out in the woods.
The activity that
engaged in the activity that we claim to do. Yeah.
I mean, it's and that's where I get it. It's just that, Barton Nutley is one of the people that we respect in this. I mean, you can see him running around the LBL like a madman with a spear and a sword, trying to kill one of these things, because he walks the walk. He walks the walk, man, but there's no question of the fact that he is out here doing this. But like I said, then I guess that's what gets me, is these people that even if they were to go, well, I don't do like field research or field investigations or whatever you want to call it, but this is my theory on it after studying the subject for several years. I would believe that with a heart.
Have a monochrome of fucking humility.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Jonestead Farm says, I appreciate the conversation in your live chats. Growing up, I experienced much paranormal phenomenon and continuously told not to speak of it. To speak openly without that muzzle means a lot. Yeah, and you can tell us whatever theories you have. Go for it. That's what what we do here is an open discussion. It's an open discussion on this, and there is no room for anybody to say, well, no, this is how they behave, this is what they do, because they have no idea. If you want to pose that theory, go ahead, but you know.
And Tony says, I involuntarily ignore too precise and exact storytelling, grain of salt, etc. The people that I find most credible are people like Martin Groves or Joe from Michigan, based on the state. People that are just like, this is what happened to me. I was here. This happened. I did this. This is what I saw. This is what happened afterwards. I don't know what to tell you. Do you know what I'm saying? I think that these things are from here, but I don't know. But they just have a story to tell. They tell their story, and they might have theories as to the underlying elements to what happened, but they don't give you just like extremely detailed stuff that they have no way of really showing how they got there. You know, all we're asking for is, if you've got really good information like that, if you've got like very detailed information like that, do yourself a service and show your work, show how you got there. Do you know what I'm saying? That's all. I mean, that's all we're saying. So
Daniel Pollard says, when are you going to post new videos? Friday. We have a new video Friday coming out Friday. It'll be Friday.
Maybe Friday.
Friday. I'll have it done.
This seems to have struck a chord. Totally agree with you, Joe. The more someone claims to be an expert. Yeah, that's the thing, is that I mean, we're not expert. I mean, we're pretty familiar with some of the research methodology that we use, and it works for us. Other people might do things entirely differently. We might be pretty well versed in some of the stuff that we think touches upon the stuff we're looking into. But as far as like the anomalous phenomena, yeah, we're not experts. I mean, again, because even people that say they've got patterns, I mean, you find a pattern. I mean, I'll probably find you case for case something that doesn't fit that pattern.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's the experts are just odd to me, man. So
Dumpster driving Dogman, Joe's laying it down. You know what? Dashcam 3000 says, you accept dash cams. I feel welcome. You should. We will embrace you, Dashcam. You got one?
Yeah. Little off topic. Have you ever had a visit from Men in Black or any of your witnesses? We had and we won't rehash it. We had those guys we saw at the end of our Panther Town experience, which were just odd. They weren't in black. They were in plaid flannel shirts.
And I don't think those were like a government entity.
No,
that would be
there was
like
something else going there altogether.
Something altogether.
Either extremely weird humans that were involved in some weird stuff, or something that was not human but appeared that way. That's weird to say, but that's just it sounds crazy, but that's just what we walked away from and thinking. We've had some weird stuff happen. We've had documents go missing. Yeah, I had a bunch of like a research project that we were doing. I had a bunch of Google Docs that just vanished on it. But it's a Google Doc, man. It's not like I had a paper dossier and a locked safe and somebody came in and picked the safe lock and got it out. Yeah. It could have just been bad luck that only those particular documents went missing. But as far as like the actual stereotypical Men in Black stuff, none, everything like that. So I don't even know how I would react to that. I mean, what would you do during that? I mean, if they came up and like they actually had like, national like security, like credentials, be worried about going to Guantanamo or something like that. I guess you'd have to do whatever they requested of you, but
they need a man on the inside.
Yeah. So Angela Martin, if they're primates at all, they're the product of fallen angels mating with apes. I mean, Genesis 6 talks about them with the daughters of man, but yeah, you've got a good point. Maybe it was even before there was man around to mate with, or maybe it was just an allegory. I don't know, but yeah, I'm actually going through like a translation of the Book of Enoch right now, just because you hear it bandied around a lot, but I'd actually never really read it like word for word. So I'm going through that a little bit at a time in my spare time right now. So. Dun, dun, dun. I don't want any silence, but
sorry guys, we're reading through this chat.
I know. So War Criminal 7. Yeah, with you. Yeah, exactly. Take people for their word, but I watch their body language. And I'm not even calling anybody out for that. It's it seems like the people that seem to have it the most figured out can't show anything as to how they got there. And again, I'm suspicious of all this stuff. We both have a questioning nature on things, and we're not trying to like debunk anything or anything like that. But that's like that infrasound thing that we got into. People are always saying it. I'm like, well, how do you know that? Well, that's what infrasound does. How do you know that? Have you looked into what infrasound does? Well, yeah, it does this. I'm not sure, man. Let me look into this. We just want to look into stuff and see what's going on. So,
Mojo one day I'm gonna get this right. I swear to you, Mojo. We're just gonna go with Mojo. We won't. How can mainstream cryptid hunters manage to go home without good evidence, even after huge budgets and time? Do you think there is a propaganda, or am I being hard on them? I don't know.
Either with giant crews.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't have the right person for the job.
And sometimes they're not necessarily looking for evidence. They're looking to provide entertainment. At the end of the day, any of these shows that's on, it's not scientific research. It's to sell cat food and new cars, man. It's there to get advertising dollars.
Yeah, so it has to be entertaining.
And that's fine, because I watch it. I want to be entertained.
Yeah, we watch Ghost Adventures.
I don't care. It's a guilty pleasure, man.
But
I like watching dudes have breakdowns because they heard a rapping in the corner. It amuses me. I find it entertaining. But it so yeah, I think it's that. I think that
the size of the crew,
size of the crew.
When he and I go out, it's literally just he and I. We don't ever we never have anybody else with us. It's just us two. But if you are familiar with these shows, they go out. They have a sound guy. They have a camera guy. They have several producers. They have all of this stuff.
You've got some sort of like medic,
insurance
range.
people. Just all kinds of stuff involved in a production that you just have so many people and lights, and then you have you got a producer over there constantly on their cell phone doing something.
And again, if you think that this stuff is intelligently controlled, we always take the approach that we're not sneaking up on anything out there. Although I do want to try a hex suit just to see what that does. Yeah. But anyway, we don't think that we're sneaking up on anything out there. Sometimes we try to be real quiet just so we can hear what's going on. Yeah. Other times we purposely make noise. We had a guy a few months ago that was giving me a ton of grief because we were too loud in the woods. And I'm like, do you really think you're sneaking up on these things, man? If these things, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because I think every once in a while these things do get sloppy or lazy, or just the stars align or whatever.
But this is that creature's environment.
Yeah. So, I think that these things, like, sometimes, a lot of the stuff we do is to try to maybe make something curious to come in, or do something novel that,
that's part of the whole thing with the beacon experiment that we're doing, is just have something there that really, really piques his interest.
Introduce something to the environment that's not normal, and maybe ties in with some of the abilities that these things supposedly have or seem to have.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I think that's that. I think that maybe the phenomena just doesn't want to expose itself on national television and just puts out little bits and pieces. Who knows? Maybe they're getting great evidence and the network won't let them show it, man. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's where the Men in Black come in.
There you go.
So I don't know. Shut them down. Yeah.
Shelley Vidal. When I was referring to massive amount of intelligence, I'm not talking about people. I was actually talking about Bigfoot. Yeah, I agree, Shelley.
Yeah.
We've definitely learned over the past few years the shortcomings of man's intelligence. Good night, Cryptid Response.
Hold on a second.
Boy, everybody's cheering Joe on his rant.
Have y'all? Yeah, we've heard of the Men in Plaid. We hadn't heard about it at the time, but we heard about it later. And there's two different Men in Plaid type phenomena. There's one which are the government agents that show up afterwards after a Bigfoot sighting and basically tell you saw a bear and apply varying degrees of pressure. Now, they differ from the Men in Black, which sometimes seem to have like a supernatural like element to them. The Men in Plaid from the government side just seem to be two guys that maybe work for the Department of the Interior or something like that. And then there's the flannel man phenomenon that
which Jill Duck mentions later on here. Yeah. She goes, you ran into a group of flannel men. You need to report that to Timothy Renner.
I haven't gotten that far yet. So there's two different types of things that, and to be honest, even though this sounds crazy, that if my gut is telling me that what we experienced at the end of Panther Town is more in line with what Timothy Renner talks about than
Flannel man, something
yeah, because that did not seem normal
else.
or anything.
Dash
So,
cam.
yeah.
Tip, go to the Men in Black yard sales.
Yeah.
Thank you for that pro tip.
Glenn Snyder, humans are the only species. This does not seem to be from Earth. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on there, like with the, that's a whole interesting, I can't do all of the things off the top of my head, but the fact that we sunburn so easily, the fact that, you know, gravity seems to wreak such havoc on our bodies as we age, and just all of the stuff that it does not seem sometimes that we were designed to be on this particular planet, but maybe something just similar, but with some really remarkable differences. So it's a very good possibility. So Tales from the Narc Side, good night.
Good night.
Stephanie Light, can't believe I've been missing y'all. Hopefully you will tune back in. So
Stephanie Light, I actually said on here, I started a new job today. My boyfriend and I are going to rent another house. It's been built in the 1920s. Almost brought one of my paranormal tools to
check
check
it out, man. You never know.
Yeah,
So.
you know, it's not a bad idea to do some like pre-scans before you commit to a year lease on a place that you may be haunted.
James Parker, I'm gonna holler with the nicest put up or shut up in cryptozoology. You don't even have to shut up. You can say whatever you want. I mean, it's just that we get I don't know. I guess it's just a gripe because we spend a huge amount of time doing this stuff, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when I say like a huge amount of time, I mean, hopefully it comes across in my babble, but I mean, we spend a lot of time not just researching like Bigfoot sightings and Dogman sightings, but like secondary information that we think is tied into it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you do that, but more from like a spiritual side. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like our reading libraries are vastly different from one another. She's looking up stuff on like ghost hunting and demonology and everything like that. And I'm looking up stuff on
I also like crime scene investigation
stuff. But it's just that we'll get like contacted by people that are just a little rude and dismissive sometimes, that we're not taking everything they say with a grain of salt. And I mean, I don't even take what I say with a grain of salt, man. I mean, I constantly second guess the stuff that we come up with. I think that being questioning in this without being rude, there's nothing wrong with that, you know? But like I said, it's just it seems like the people that seem to know the most are the least. They're very forthcoming with the facts that they claim to have. They're just not forthcoming with how they acquired these facts.
Yeah.
So
Alan Lassiter says, what's y'all's plan if y'all come up on a Dogman? We have no idea. I don't, well, we are ready. We are ready to defend ourselves. But I don't think you know exactly what you're going to do unless you're in that situation, right? We do go out looking for these things. That's why we do go armed.
I've pulled my pistol a few times out there when things have happened and gone into the woods after stuff before.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I'm not saying that we don't know what we'll do, but it's just, I guess the facts, you know, I guess the details of that particular circumstance.
The context will inform the response. So there you go.
And people always go, you're going to die if you come across one. And I'm like, well, when you get right down to it, I mean, I think we came across definitely one in the LBL when I got that thermal. We were not that far from it.
No.
And if it was playing out the way I think it played out, there was more than one there right around us. And then for whatever reason, nothing happened. Does that mean that they're not dangerous? Absolutely not. I think that I think maybe they choose their own actions based upon something that maybe we don't understand why they choose to act the way they do. Maybe they're extremely strategic in how they decide to interact with people.
Yeah.
But I mean, we go out armed. I mean, and people are always just like, you're going to die doing this. And I'm like, I get hit by a bus tomorrow. Just, you know, I could decide only to leave my house to go to work. And then the first day I leave to go to work, get hit and get killed. So at least we're doing what we enjoy doing. So
there you go. He died doing what he loved.
Just a guy doing what he loves in the woods. So.
Insurance people. Yeah.
Johnson boy Ghost Adventure since they started. Yeah, man. I mean, it's a guilty pleasure, man. We watch the freakouts, the meltdowns.
Also, good night, Jill.
Good night, Jill. How crazy everybody seems to be getting. So, I mean, on that show. So
that's gold. That's TV, man. It's TV.
It's just entertainment. Like I said, they had a thing where they were generating infrasound one night. I looked at it. I'm like, they're not generating infrasound.
Yeah.
They're doing something, but that's not what they're doing. It's good entertainment though, man, you know? So
Jay Myers says no sound effects from Jessi tonight. Why? I did do like a hum, like a
Yeah.
mechanical. Whoa, 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 whoa,
Mhm.
whoa, whoa. There you go. You get a mechanical hum.
What the flock? What are your thoughts about little people in the woods, like the 3-foot tall variety? We have been finding small footprints in the area in North Georgia that we've been alluding to all night long.
Yeah, so that video that is coming out actually has Joe coming across a tiny little footprint.
And one of the sets of tracks at least had 6 toes. Now the other set seem like they've only got 5 toes, but one noticeably had 6 toes, but they're all roughly about the same size. I don't know if that would translate to them being 3 feet tall, but they're definitely
they're described to
they're
be
small.
about that size. In the Cherokee Little People are described to be about that size. That's a general thing. And I think that Mary Joyce's work, they mentioned that the size of the skull and the bones that they found under Western Carolina University, allegedly, that they were about that size, about 3.5 feet tall, that they were very small, but they were all proportional, that it wasn't like often when you get maybe like a dwarf or somebody with dwarfism, their proportions are different. But these were all proportional, and they were about 3.5 feet tall when they found those skeletons.
What the flock says, it's always good to question people. Case in point, Todd Standing. I have a very complicated view on Todd Standing. I think that Todd Standing, he's really going out there deep into the woods. Now he's also taking other people that he's charging like $5,000 a pop with him sometimes. So there's that. But I think, and again, with some of the debunking that people do on Todd Standing, or they just go, "Oh, it's all been proven fake." I'm gonna be honest with you. I think some of it looks fake, but I have yet to see anybody's. And I've seen the videos where they morph his face into one of the Sasquatch and all that. It's not definitive. It's kind of clumsily done. I'm not saying I'm a believer in Todd Standing. I'm just saying that some of his stuff looks fake, but some of the efforts to debunk him look equally as fake. It look like they're just, because Todd Standing's a lot of times not a very likable guy. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, he's insanely obsessed about this stuff. He's like a bull in a china shop. My gut feeling is that he actually has had experiences and has maybe tried to, I don't know if he's manufactured
It's complicated
stuff to try to make people believe what he saw with his own 2 eyes. But yeah, like I said, but at the same token though, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't believe the video footage, but again, I haven't seen something, and I've heard all the stuff. Oh, he's got a monkey suit in his trunk and da 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 da. But it's weird about that, man. You know what I'm saying? But again, it comes down to the point the guy's charging like $5,000 a pop.
Yeah.
To like go out in the woods, so it's crazy.
Thank you for the $10, dumpster diving Dogman.
Hey, thank you, Dogman.
Incredible knowledge and pleasant delivery, you two. Thank you. Thank you very much. Going back to
Hang on 1 second. James Barker. Is that the one you were going to do?
Oh, yeah. I was about to do James's.
Yeah. Shotgun shells loaded with silver buckshot and black salt wadding. Dude, let me give you my P.O. box, man. It's somebody had mentioned the company that does actual working silver ammunition. It's like Minuteman or something like that. But they make working silver ammunition, but it's up to $150 a bullet now.
So we better get that shot right, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So that ain't happening.
What the flock goes, Joe? What 10mm do you like? Glock. We both carry Glocks. He carries a Glock 20. I carry a Glock 29. So mine's a more compact version, but we both carry 10mm Glocks. Turn tail and run like hell. Yeah. War Criminal thinks we've already encountered a Dogman. I think you've already encountered one.
What is this now?
What?
What did you say?
Oh, War Criminal 7 things that we've already encountered one, probably with our LBL investigation. We're just catching up with chat right now, guys.
Sorry. But Grace W asked, yeah, we found tiny footprints outside of a cave.
I think in our very first video that we put on YouTube.
And we saw this cave. The area we were in, it was the middle of winter, so the trees were all bare, and we saw this shadow on the side of the hill. We thought it was like a cave. The cave opening was very small. What we thought was an actual cave was just an overhang. And then there was like a really small opening there. And we kind of dismiss it. And then we find these like small little footprints. and just these splayed-toed little footprints that are the size of like Jessi's hand, and she's got tiny hands. And we're like, nobody's got their kids out here, because I mean, going up the side of that mountain damn near killed us, man. It was like, I mean, it was a climb. And then later on, we heard this weird high-pitched, like, just babbling. Like, we kind of compared to the Sierra sounds, but it wasn't as dramatic as the Sierra sounds, but it was higher pitched and very faint. That's why we built the parabolic setup, because we were thinking that since we couldn't catch it with our camera mics, we were going to do that. So we found small footprints there, and then we found small prints in the area that we're going into right now. But we've also found big footprints there too.
Yeah.
Which is weird. We found big canine tracks through there.
It's very strange.
It's just like a hodgepodge of like just stuff up there. It's really bizarre. So
Alan Lassiter says, "Do y'all wear unscented clothes when out in the woods?"
We've done like scent blocker
experimented with that
before.
But like he said, that we're going into whatever these are. We're going into these entities, environment. It's not our environment; it's their environment. They're going to know slight changes in the environment, and sure, scent blockers are going to work when you're out hunting bear or deer or something like that.
Yeah, because if these things, their senses are as sharp as everybody claims, they're going to smell our breath when we're out. You know what I'm saying? Let alone the clothing we're wearing. I even looked into like scent covering, like gum that you can get that people do, but we haven't gone down that far yet. Jersey said Todd Standing brought great pride to the FX community. See, that's one of the things that's weird, because you always hear that his like sister or whatever is like a makeup artist, and people like kind of like
equate that with being a
special effects makeup.
But
she's like a makeup artist. She does like makeovers and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah.
So that's what's weird to me, and that's what's so interesting, is that how did he get this stuff done if it's like all faked? If you watch like Survivor Man, he goes, well, if it's real, it's the greatest. It puts like the PGF to shame, and he's right. If it's real, it puts the PGF to shame. To me, it seems like really good CGI, but nobody's told me how he got it or how he did it. So that's. And what's really kind of weird is, and just kind of share this real quick, but there was a lady on like one of the like Todd Standing Facebook groups like about a year ago, and she was on there. Yeah, remember that? She was on there going about how she had the information that was going to bring Todd Standing down, and she was going to prove that he was a fraud, and and so they kick her out of the group like instantly.
I remember.
Yeah, but I remember.
Side note, thank you, Bullish Bowser, for the $9.99 super sticker. Thank you so much.
Hey,
Let's get back into this story.
Yeah, so this lady, she was just on there, just going off about Todd Standing. She's going to
take him down.
She's going to be the one that takes him down, and And she made a real interesting comment, like about like he's going to rue the day that he decided to cross me. So I'm going, oh, Todd Standing's got some. Because let's just be honest. Todd Standing loves the ladies, you can tell. Has Todd Standing ever contacted you about going out Bigfooting with him?
No comment.
Yes, he has. Anyway, so as soon as she said that, I'm going, Todd Standing has a scorned woman that's going to like try to take him down.
Woman.
Yeah. So I went to her profile, and then I like looked at her profile on Facebook, and then I went back to the group. Her posts are gone. So I go forward to her profile again, and I message her. Todd Standing had dated her, I guess, or something like that. And like, I guess had like apparently stolen a bunch of stuff from her, according to her. And that she had gone to get like her stuff back and found a bunch of like SD cards, like memory sticks and all that, like that had stuff on there proving that he was like a hoaxer. And she was going to release them to take him down and And like, cause I said, God, it sounds like this is like a jilted lover thing. Did you guys have something going on? That's not important. Well, you didn't answer my question. All right, fine. Yes, we dated briefly. But that's not what this is about. That's what that was about. But, and I was like, awesome. When are you going to release this stuff? And she was just like, it's coming soon. I'm just trying to figure out the best avenue. And then just nothing ever came of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she had it, or maybe she got her stuff back and she gave it back. But, I was thinking that Todd Standing was going to be, that we were going to get the smoking gun on Todd Standing because of his poor choice in women, but that was
turns out he slithered away again.
He slithered away. He escaped the net again, man.
Dumpster diving Dogman threw us $5. This is for just
sir.
ridiculously horrible skills. Oh God, here we go. Are we all ready? We all sitting down? There you go. See, Will Cicada for $5 for super stickers.
What the Flock says, he probably had experiences, but he seems desperate to get recognition. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to get too much on Todd Standing, but you're right. I think that he's had something happen to him. And I think that some of it's weird because I don't mean to be insulting anybody out there at all. And I hope that you guys take this the way that I mean it when I say it. But I think we could all agree that Todd Standing is somewhere on the spectrum. Is that fair to say? You know what I'm saying? You can tell by his personal mannerisms that he is very intelligent in certain areas, but he struggles with maybe human interaction somewhat. I'm sure he doesn't pick up on social clues and cues as well as he should. So Joe with the juicy gossip. So and I think that's why a lot of people dislike him above and beyond anything else. I think that's why people dislike him. But if you watch the way he tells certain stories, he's very Todd Standing like, you know, like very just kind of like aggressive body language. And then other stories he tells, it's like he's a different person. He's more reflective. I put some credence behind the story that he told about being out miles and miles in the backcountry and coming across those boot prints. He comes across a group of guys in the boot prints and he's first struck by, wow, these guys are like really out here. I never seen anybody out here. And then he heard all those gunshots later on and then heard a helicopter coming up. I think that actually happened. I just think that I can't obviously prove it, but just watching the way he tells that story, it's just different. It's again, he's reflective almost on it. But yeah, he definitely, you know, and I'm probably I don't mean to make enemies with Todd Standing and all that because he's an interesting cat. At the end of the day, he's like out there in places where we couldn't probably go and operate in. I mean, that's his environment, man. Yeah. So
maybe he has Asperger's syndrome, like Lower Criminal 7 says.
That's where I'm dancing around, man. So
he came to Alabama a few years ago. Very strange fellow to talk to.
Did you talk to him? Like, because I've watched his documentary like a few times. I'll probably watch it again, and I think that I don't know. I can't say anything for sure, but I just don't dismiss him out of hand like a lot of people do. He's not like Rick Dyer getting busted with like, you know, the monkey suit filled with possum meat in the ice. I mean, that was a smoking gun. He's a fraud. He admits it. Todd Standing has not been debunked like that. People will put up YouTube videos saying, I'm going to prove how he's wrong. And then I go, you didn't prove anything, man. You just gave me your opinion.
There's a jilted woman out there with an SD card.
There was a jilted woman out there that maybe had an SD card.
Stephanie Light, thank you for the $9.99 super chat. I
tried to send 11, but it wouldn't let me. So
with all the spiciness going on. At least we don't have the same spiciness we had last week where people are trying to argue with us about towns and stuff. Now it's sorry about that. Yeah.
Tracker's got a lot of good information. He's somebody whose opinion we value. The elders state the stick people, which is another word for Sasquatch, are tricksters. Definitely. There definitely seems to be like a trickster sort of element to it. There definitely seems to be a trickster element to it. Sometimes beyond just something playing practical jokes on you, sometimes there seems to be a trickster element that is engaged in behavior that a couple of like undiscovered monkeys in the woods would not be privy to the information in order to do what they do. Again, we go back to how we sometimes go loaded in for a particular type of investigation, and we go in loaded for Bigfoot activity, and we have everything but Bigfoot activity happen to us.
Mm-hmm.
We return to the same spot. We're geared up for basically like a ghost hunt or whatever, and we start finding large footprints and hearing like howls. We haven't heard chest beating that night, which I don't think these things are monkeys. So the chest beating's odd, but it's almost like it's giving you what you weren't looking for,
mm-hmm.
you know, just to mess with you. And I'm just going, that displays like a level of intelligence and understanding. How did it know what we were coming out geared up for, you know?
Stephanie Light asked Joe for his cicada rendition.
Joe doesn't sing at parties or do anything like that. Joe does not have the gift of mimicry that Jessi has here.
The gift.
Oh, the gift of memory.
Or are we calling it a gift now? Okay.
Yeah, so.
I think I might be neurodivergent.
James Barker, drum roll. Need a new style of social awkwardness as standing offish.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, here's the deal though. Again, and it's humorous, but I'm just going to state this again, that people will be like, oh, Todd Standing's a fraud. I'm like, why? Well, because so-and-so proved that he's a fraud. So-and-so gave you why he thinks he's a fraud.
No.
Nobody's proved it.
Proof.
And I'm going to say right now, though, he goes out into places that a lot of people couldn't go. He is dedicated to it. And Todd Standing has just like a, excuse me, like a no F's given kind of approach to a lot of this stuff, man. He, I guess, Les Stroud had done an interview where he gave his like personal opinions on Todd Standing. And then Todd Standing had done a video going, wait to the end of this video and I'll give you my personal opinion on Les Stroud. And at the end of the video, he was just like, why does it matter what I think about Les Stroud? You know what I'm saying? I'm just out to prove the existence of Bigfoot. What I feel about him or what he feels about me is irrelevant. Let's just find Bigfoot. And I'm just going, I respect that.
Foolish Bowser goes, I'm with you, Joe. My opinion, Todd gets a bad rap. Les Stroud, Survivor Man, seems to be very interested in his research.
Exactly right. And Les Stroud is somebody who was skeptical but interested about this and now is pretty much just convinced. He's convinced himself that these things exist. And he's obviously not an unintelligent man. And he's obviously, and he himself will just go like, Todd Standing's like a woodsman like you don't encounter very often. So, yeah, like I said, it's just, I'm also going to say this. He's probably one of the more interesting people that's involved with this sort of stuff, man.
I agree. You know? I agree.
So.
You guys reminded me of Todd.
Who said that?
The ominous green glow.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to take that, but okay. But
sure.
Yeah.
I am neurodivergent. I'll take it.
Actually, Cryptoville's got something. In all seriousness, I've been looking into the mannerisms and personality traits of people who have had actual physical contact with these things, and I believe there might be something to it.
That's a cool thing to look into.
Yeah, there's a very cool thing to look into.
That's very interesting.
And that ties into a certain extent with the missing 411 stuff. That there are certain traits that occur more frequently with people who go missing and go missing under these mysterious circumstances. There are physical traits that you just see repeated over and over and over again. So
yeah, that's pretty clever.
Possibly so, man. Like I said, it's just I don't know whether I believe him or disbelieve him. I know some of the stuff doesn't look realistic, but yeah, I've never seen a really good debunking on him. And I just like the clumsy photoshops that you see out there of people doing stuff. This is how I'm going to disprove. I just haven't seen anything that really.
I like that one where they take Les Stroud's face and morph it into the Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's just.
But the Les Stroud face that they use looks like he has had his nose chopped off.
Yeah, no, it's just it's.
So what did he do? He made up Les Stroud and special effects.
Like I said again, Les Stroud thinks that there's something to it, and that's somebody whose opinion that you have to give some weight behind, and he's obviously spent more time with the guy and seen stuff, and it seemed like if you watch those like Survivor Man Bigfoot things that they had some activity in these areas where Todd Standing's at. So does that mean that everything he has done is right? I don't know.
Glenn Snyder says, what if they use our greatest fears to scare the crap out of us? Well, that's a positive thought. Not only are these giant creatures in the woods, they also know our deepest fears and they use them against us.
What you hear all the time, man. You hear telepathy. You hear with like the UFO community and stuff like that too. I mean, where there's like a mental aspect to it.
Well, with a lot of abductions, they go into your psyche and they show you.
Definitely.
You talk about the Whitley Strieber case, they were talking about how they were encountering loved ones who were dead, when they were having these encounters with these extraterrestrials.
That's something that we talk a lot about this, about how the similarities between modern like extraterrestrial and UFO activity and fairy encounters, the fae and everything like that. Well, there's a lot of crossover between the fae and the dead. You know what I'm saying? Where they were the spirits of the unbaptized that died, or these were people that somehow were bound for purgatory but didn't quite make it, and they were trapped on Earth. And there's folklore of people encountering like spirits of their deceased family members or loved ones when they were having fae encounters. You have that with UFOs as well. You know what I'm saying? You have people that talk about how they experience dead family members when they had a UFO encounter. And you wonder, are they encountering the actual dead relative, or is something portraying itself as a dead relative?
That goes back to us talking about the remote viewing as a projection into the psyche, a projection into the
Well, they'd have to have
projection
some
into the
access to
brain.
your psyche to be able to figure out that, that I'm going to look like his dead uncle. Well, they got to know what your dead
Yeah,
uncle
they
looks
have to
like,
they have to
So,
tap in.
yeah.
It's not just a one-way projection in. It's a digging around and then a projection, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's
So,
freaky. Yeah, that's freaky.
So,
thank you for the super chat,
William
Dudas. That is awesome. We really
people really like
appreciate
the
it.
Todd Standing rants, man. We got to make that have Todd on the show. You know what I'm saying? So just let him go, man. Just let him go.
I like that the dash cam guy said I can translate Joe's babble into Spanish. It's like there's no translating Joe's babble.
It's because this whole thing is like, I know I go off on tangents, but this whole thing is like a spider web. It's not linear. I mean, you get into one thing and you're going in some path, and then something else branches, and then the next thing you know, you've branched out so many different times. It's like that when you talk about it. I mean, like, look, we were just talking about, like, to use their greatest fears against you, and then we start talking about like Fae encounters and like how there was like some sort of tie-in with the dead and Fae encounters, and that's replicated with UFO encounters.
Random name says Fae are aliens.
Yeah, Timothy Renner uses that portmanteau of Phalians. That he calls them, that they're, and when you get down to it, there's not a lot of difference between some of the folklore from what are from those who've come before us will talk about, and modern day UFO or alien encounters. There's a lot of, I was out, these small things came up. There was one tall willowy one with them. They took me away to this very bright room. They did things to me. They let me go. I thought I was only there for a couple of hours, but like 4 days had passed, there's, I mean, again, like a lot of these like stories that you look at, if you replace the word like fairy with alien, and you updated it to modern times,
even the like you mentioned, the physical descriptions, not just the actions that take place or the experiences that people have, the physical descriptions of the Fae and what would be considered the grays or the tall whites would fall right into fairy lore. Angel Martin says, my best friend, who was born into the Luciferian Lee High Clement family, saw a hooded reptilian entity when she was 4. It was the guest of honor at their ritual party.
Angel Martin's got some stories about stuff like that, which are like really just chilling. She shared some of them with us in the past. So
it is, what goes on with the elites is disturbing. I think that there's a lot that is just conspiracy theory, and then some of it is just so freaking weird that I don't know, that I think some of it may be real. Absolutely.
Mark Plowboy Green, seems like when you start researching, all kinds of different things start happening. Just strange. That's true. I mean, there's I don't know whether like intent, like your own personal intent plays a role in what you experience, but it's just weird. Maybe some of it's just psychosomatic. Maybe you're because you're looking into this stuff. I mean, that's something I always second guess. Am I interpreting this as being anomalous because I'm looking for anomalous activity? And we've had stuff happen before that we've just never released because we're going, I mean, it's not definitive, and we ourselves aren't sure what it is. So we choose not to release it or really like talk about it because we're not sure. I mean, there's definitely something to that. I'm not sure what the cause of that is, how that's even possible. So
Cryptoville says the most interesting thing to look at is the after effect of physical contact. Most of those folks cut themselves off from human contact, and it does something on a psychological level.
And that's whether or not you have experienced a UFO. I'm ticking off my fingers, which you can't see on the camera. A UFO, a Sasquatch, a Dogman, certain paranormal, like supernatural encounters. You see that again, the similarities with fairy encounters. People that were touched after their fairy encounters, they came back and they were never quite the same. That goes into it kind of ties into, there was an adult version of basically what you consider a changeling, where people were so distant and just cut off from where they normally were before this encounter, that they thought that that wasn't that person that came back.
Well, I mean, this is a
Yeah.
huge psychological and
Exactly
possibly
right.
physical trauma
Exactly
that
right.
you're undergoing.
And I think that a lot of it you don't even remember, but it still affects you at that point.
Yeah, but
But-
those are deep-seated memories that they can go back to with
But
hypnosis.
those
Those are not gone.
Those physical effects and those psychological effects, that's cross spectrum. That's
Yeah.
again, that's been going on since we've been seeing weird stuff. And you're exactly right. And especially the isolation portion of it there. So and let's see here.
Cryptic Keeper says, how about the missing 411 case where the boy was found alive? He said he was with his grandma in a cave and she was mean and had glowing eyes.
You can find that case. That lady who reported that was on Above Top Secret, the message board, shortly after this happened. And I think that's how David Paulides found her, to include her in the book. But that story is just weird, that the little boy said that the grandmother had sparks coming out of her head and she led him down into this cave.
Didn't she try to make him eat something?
She tried to get
disgusting?
him to poop on a piece of paper.
Poop on a piece of paper.
She wanted him to poop on a piece of paper. That's what he kept saying.
Yeah.
And he said that there was old clothing and old backpacks lining the walls down there. And the impression you got was that those were from other people that had been abducted in the past. And when she wanted him to poop on the piece of paper, he got really upset. And she started to get even more aggressive with him. And he ended up turning out and running and getting out somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, that story's on Above Top Secrets. You can go find that unless it's been archived somehow on there. But yeah, that's a really weird.
That is
weird
such
story.
a weird account.
Yeah.
TCR44 says, I heart Hellbent Holler. You are genuine and literate and not insane.
Thank
you. Well,
I want to have a t-shirt made up like this. Says that we're
genuine, literate,
not insane.
So normal human beings.
What the Flux got one that says, it does seem like the more you were willing to accept the paranormal, the more you'll experience it. I think about that all the time. Is that the case, or has it been going on around you and you've just been explaining it away because the thought of the paranormal is so outlandish to you that you're just like, you instinctively explain anything paranormal away with a mundane cause, even if that mundane cause doesn't really make sense to you? It makes sense because there's no room for the paranormal in like your worldview. So
good night, Frank.
Good night, Frank.
Angel Martin, going back to that, talking about the occult activity with the elites, is they do these sick, evil things, but they also intentionally fed the conspiracy community in order to discredit the Illuminati stuff. It became a meme. This disinformation agent phenomenon, it's not even a phenomenon. It's done purposely. They did it in the UFO community early on. They're doing it now, we believe, in the cryptid community. But there are disinformation agents out there, and that they're put out there to discredit other people, to sow this like rift between people.
It's not even just from a human disinformation agent element. Sometimes the phenomenon itself seems to behave in such a ludicrous way that it's almost like an armor against being taken seriously. When people will go, I mean, there's a lot of like pretty credible UFO reports that are just insane. People driving down the road, like, in the Southwest, down like an old highway at night, and there's a UFO broken down on the side of the road and two little green men out working on it with a wrench. I mean, that's not happening. These things aren't flying from like, Zeta Reticula and then breaking down here, and they're just working on it on the side of the road. Jack Valet talks about that sometimes it's like the phenomenon behaves in such a way to be outlandish on purpose. So that way it's not taken seriously. You know what I'm saying? So you've got the human element spreading misinformation, trying to be a disinformation agent. And then you have chaotic elements itself and the phenomenon that kind of does it to just mess with you, maybe to preclude it from being taken seriously by the mainstream. So
Rando375 says, do you two think that your state of mind when out researching has an impact on the chances of an encounter? Yes.
And no.
And no. Can you tell that Joe and I disagree on things? I think it does. I think I do a lot of work with like spiritualism, ritual magic, and intent is very important with everything you do. And I think when you go out there with a certain intent, what if these entities have the ability to possibly connect with you psychically? Wouldn't they be able to read your intent? Wouldn't they be able to
Yeah, and
sense
sometimes that how many times have we gone out to an active area where like the week before we had crazy activity and we go out and it's just a peaceful walk in the woods. It's
Many
almost
times.
like it dangled that bait in front of us and then we come out better prepared to hopefully try to document
Yeah,
what
because
happened.
we go out there excited and
Nothing
full
happens.
of intent to see something and nothing happens. I think that maybe, I don't know.
Possibly. Yeah, I mean, possibly.
We
So,
should go-
yeah, okay. So it's having an impact on the chances of the encounter because your intent is decreasing your chances of the encounter. I'd
Yeah,
give you
that's an
that. So,
impact.
yeah, I'd
Yeah.
give you that. So
It doesn't necessarily mean that your intent and the outcome are going to coincide.
Angel Martin, there's something to the giant black spider entities. That's what my friend dreads the most. That's what I dread the most.
That's a no.
Says they're like Archon or possibly the true form of a type of demon. I'd like to hear about the giant black spider entities. We ain't going out looking for them, but I'd like to hear about it.
That's a no from me.
That's where I draw the line at, man. Random Names got some information on that. The robot grandma thing supposedly happened at Fowler's Falls on the McCloud River, but always gets tied to Mount Shasta. Yeah, I know that it had a Mount Shasta connection, but I haven't read that original thread on Above Top Secret in years, so I can't remember where she said it at. But yeah, it does have maybe it got tied with Mount Shasta later on. So,
Rando375 says, have either of you experienced any physical or mental cues leading up to an encounter, a sixth sense sort of thing? Sometimes we'll be out in the woods and you'll just have like the hair go up on the back of your neck.
You just feel the tension in the air.
You feel the tension in the air. You feel. I've felt extreme fear and extreme dread while being out there, even though nothing is really like actually going on at that moment, but just a feeling of fear and dread. And I think it's like just an instinct that, I mean, you have it. Everyone has instincts in them. But I think the more that we get out in the woods and the more that we experience these things and go looking for these things, that maybe we become more attuned to the environment and maybe eventually, maybe those cues will actually increase as we do this more. I don't know.
Stephanie Light, what do you think of Tom DeLonge's perspective? Recently watched an interview, not sure if I agree with him. I don't know if I agree with him or not. What's interesting about Tom DeLonge is freaking Blink 182. And how much are Blink 182 tickets right
$450.
now? $450.
I think it's the cheapest.
Not that I'm a Blink 82 fan and I care less one way or the other, but $450 for that's crazy. Anyway, when he first came out, he was talking all this crazy talk. You know, he's a dude from Blink 182 for God's sakes. And he's talking about having meetings with generals and people in the White House giving him information, and everybody's just like, yeah, whatever. And then all the emails got linked, and it turns out that he was meeting with generals and talking to Podesta, and like they were giving him information for some reason. Why they chose him of all people to be a vehicle for some of this information, I don't know. But here's what I find interesting about Tom DeLonge is that he was obviously tied in with government sources who were as in the know on this stuff as I guess maybe people could be. And before Tom DeLonge got really polished at giving interviews, because he's still in like rock star mode, you know what I'm saying? He's not really on the, I guess you'd call it the political stage yet with like UAPs. He would just let all sorts of just like weird little nuggets drop in these like interviews. And then it's like people kind of reined him in. And now afterwards, he was much more circumspect in how he spoke. But he would talk like all sorts of just little factoids out that what we were dealing with were gods with a lowercase g, and that these things had been around forever and that they had always negatively impacted man, and that we were finally at a technological point where we could start to punch back against them, and just all sorts of crazy stuff. And just that the reason why the cover up was going on because they didn't want to worry people, and they didn't want to let these things know that we were onto them until we were in a better shape to defend ourselves, just all sorts of crazy stuff. But and you're wondering how much of that's true and how much of that's just, again, disinformation that was put out. I think that somebody told him all that stuff. It's just whether or not they were telling him the truth or just telling him what they wanted put out into the ether for whatever reason. So
somebody set up here. Let me find it. It was pretty interesting. If true. Here we go. That missing 411 case with a little boy happened on Mount Shasta. near Mount Shasta. The grandma also had an odd encounter herself there a few weeks prior while camping with a friend. Doesn't that remind you of what is that thing that if it like touches you, was this like a supernatural thing that if it touched you, it could get your DNA and then could shapeshift into you?
Well, I mean, that's what they were kind of insinuating was going on there. They wanted something for why poop on a piece of paper.
That's so weird, like getting the
weird.
DNA.
Yeah.
And we talk about like we've talked about the blood types, and the blood type conversation was starting back up in the chat again. That there's something going on here with this gathering of DNA and transforming and the blood types and what is it about people that is so interesting to these? Because obviously we are of interest. If these are advanced beings, these are beyond us. We hold some level of interest for them. There's something that they find fascinating for us, or they need from us, or they need us for something, right?
Or they here for another reason altogether that doesn't involve us, and this is just how they interact with us when they encounter us. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, it's the thing about a mystery. You know, you can have all sorts of theories, but until you get some concrete evidence, any guess is as good as mine. So everybody's going about the black spiders, man. Yeah, there were some rumors from Louisiana about large black spiders being seen on a military base there. They're completely just biological creatures that there was a cover up and they were killing them and everything like that. And that's where I draw the line at, man. I'm not going out for big spiders. If we run across big spiders, we're done. We'll take up chess. So. All right, let's see here. Just going through the chat. Bigfoot Scat Projects soliciting for scat.
He says he has a PO box if you want to send him any scat.
Yes.
If you go to the Bigfoot Museum in Jerry Log, Georgia, they have a Bigfoot turd on display.
Yeah, they do. It's in there. Are you talking about in the fridge?
No,
but they remember the guy had stuff in the fridge too. He had samples.
Yeah,
so
got samples.
But he didn't know where to get them tested at either. So
yeah. Do you have like a separate fridge for like people's lunches and the poop fridge?
I'm not taking scat samples. People always go, "Oh, you should have bagged that up," and I'm like, "And do what with it? Just like let it sit at the house."
Yeah, if you've watched any of our videos, you know we don't have to take scat samples because I always
your boot will be a DNA test. Yeah,
I step in everything out there. Oh God!
All right,
I stepped in something this past weekend too. I don't know what it is about me. I just walk right into it.
Kaiju Ninja 1985. I have Bigfoot poop in the freezer. No joke. I was getting ready to ask you if that was a joke, but you said no joke. Yeah, like I said, it's sorry.
What's happened now?
You'll see it in a second.
I'll see it in a second.
Light, so we're not collecting scat samples. So that means we're doing a disservice to the search for this, but I'm just not. Bigfoot Scat Project's got that locked down.
Yeah,
so
he's really cornered. He's cornered the market there
on scat samples there. So, all right.
No ferret poop. That's one of his rules. He knows the difference.
All right. Looks like we're pretty much caught up with the chat. If anybody's got anything,
because we're going to be because we're going to come to a close shortly because we are coming up on our time.
Yeah, we already went about an hour longer than what I anticipated. So
we never expect to go very long, but you guys are hilarious and very insightful. So we do enjoy doing these live streams.
So real quick, while there's no questions or comments like in the chat that's coming up, we're going to be doing the Dark Dive podcast still, but it's just that right now field investigations
is taking precedence.
It's taking precedence.
Yeah.
We're going to try to do a podcast once every 2 weeks. If there's any topics that you guys are interested in hearing, we don't want to do like regular stuff. As you can tell by the topics we've had in the past, we like to get a little kind of out there with what we discuss, not the same old stuff. So if anybody's got anything that you'd like to, are just interested in hearing us talk about, shoot us an email, do whatever.
And of course, our contact is down below. It's scrolling. It's been scrolling the entire time. You can contact us, hellbentholler@gmail.com. You can always send us an email there. If you have a cool encounter that you want to tell us about, you want to talk to us about anything like that, send it that way. We'll check it out there.
And we'll get to it. Like I said, we're massively behind on correspondence right now, but we will read it. I mean, we'll respond to you and everything like that. It's just that, Don't think that we're ignoring you. It just takes a little time to work through.
We've also got our
stuff.
PO box down there in case you want to send us any letters or anything. We always enjoy that.
And whoever sent us the cipher with no return email address, no return mail address on it, we got it. We got
that, and we got the Nick Redfern book. Somebody sent us a Nick Redfern book, and so we got that. So I wanted to say thank you for that as well. We do appreciate little things like that. I like to check the PO box and find little cool stuff in there. So.
Yeah. So if anybody's got any ideas on, like, again, we're going to be doing them like probably every 2 weeks. And guess what? We might go 3 weeks without doing one. If
we love doing Dark Dive,
but the field investigation stuff is there's a million people out there doing podcasts. There's not a lot of people really doing
field investigations.
At least the way that I'd like to think that we do them. So
and I'm working on editing that up right now, the one that we should be releasing Friday. So should be releasing Friday. I make no promises because every time I make a promise it goes awry. So we're not promising, but it should be Friday because I'm working really very 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 hard and diligently to get that done.
But again, like I said, the podcast they might be a little intermittent right now. Jay Myers asked who made the design on your son on the wall. I just put the link down. Jonathan Dodd. He's an artist. He does a lot of cryptid.
He does
and
amazing.
Supernatural. It's like next level. It's insanely good. But anyway, he before we met him, he went down on the rabbit hole on our channel one night and just drew that up and sent us to us. So we've been using it ever since then.
And we
it's so awesome.
A buddy of mine actually took it to a local guy and had it put on this. This is a wooden board. It's like wooden. It's carved into it and painted and everything. And we light it up to where it looks like it's lit from within, but it's actually just a wooden board that's painted very beautifully. But Jonathan Dodd did the artwork on that. And if you like cryptid stuff, which obviously you guys do because you're watching our show, make sure you check out Jonathan Dodd draws.
And that's not like just a plug because we're standing to get anything out of it. His stuff's really good.
His stuff is amazing.
Stuff's amazing.
And he's got a t-shirt store, so you can actually buy some of his designs on cool t-shirts. He has prints for sale, but he's an amazing cryptid and paranormal artist. You ought to go check it out. He's really, really, really talented. We always suggest that you go check out his stuff.
I just lost what I was doing. Glenn Snyder asked, can I send a short video on the link? Yeah, you can send it to us on email if you want to. hellbentholler@gmail.com.
And if it's you can always actually some things I do, if I can't send a video via email, I will put it into Google, like Google Drive, and then you can share that link with us, and then we'll be able to view your video there. Or if it's really long, you can upload it to YouTube on your account and just leave it as private and just email us the link to that video. So those are all options for what you can do if you can't email the video.
Derek Connor, any upcoming Dogman Bigfoot field videos? We've got a field video coming up, but I don't know what it is.
We don't know if it's Bigfoot.
I don't know what it is. We'll look to see about getting everybody's opinions out there about what they think is caught, and we'll go from there. So
yeah. So Jay Myers says that would look awesome on a truck back window. Steven constantly talks about getting that on his truck window. I have a guy who can make it, but yeah. Let's see here. Central Florida Bigfoot. Hit that like. Thank you. Yes, hit that like button. Make sure you hit that like. We appreciate it. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure your notifications are on. We really, 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 really appreciate it.
Stephanie Light want to know if you have black tourmaline.
I have some. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't have black tourmaline.
What is black tourmaline used for?
It's a protection. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't think I have black tourmaline.
Okay.
No, I do not.
Well, so I guess if you have any black tourmaline, gather and dust at your house, Stephanie.
Gather and dust.
Mail it on. So.
Yeah, we've discussed having a Discord. Who called us grandma and grandpa? Was that Scat Project? Listen, Poop Man. Yeah, we
don't have time for it. I mean, we've got a Facebook page that we hardly ever do anything with, just because we got a website that we don't barely get updated.
We don't have a Facebook group or anything like that because we just don't have time to moderate that kind of stuff or manage that kind of stuff because we're so busy going out and doing investigations and then making the videos
and then reviewing the evidence and then trying to
There's just two of us.
test equipment and then just research. When I say research, not like looking up Bigfoot encounters, but like researching the stuff that we think that might apply to and be useful out in the field to try to look into these things. I mean, that's a lot of time. So, I mean, that's why we don't really have as big a social media presence. It's kind of what these live streams are. It's a way to interact with, with like-minded people. Just because we don't really have a lot of time to do a Discord or anything like
Discord.
that. So.
Jersey says Discord would smother Ben Gay. See, they'd smell us from a mile away. They'd be like, oh, God, the Utes.
What did I hear about the deer teeth being found in scat at Portlock, Alaska? I have not heard that. I mean, I'm familiar with the Portlock, the original mythos, like the stories on it. And I'm familiar with some of the people that have gone up there fairly recently. I don't know if this was like maybe in the TV show or not, but I'm not familiar with that about deer teeth being found. So, Stephanie Light says we need an assistant. You know, we've tried to take people out with us before, but we don't operate like regular, like Bigfoot, like I don't even call ourselves, we're not really researchers. I mean, we don't really, I mean, we do research, but on other topics associated with this. I mean, we're like investigators. I think we go out and like investigate and look, but anyway, like I said, the Bigfoot, there's Bigfoot people in our area, but we're obviously open and looking for a lot of other things other than just large hairy creatures, you know what I'm saying? And that kind of puts a lot of people off. So, and that too, that we seem to have our best luck when there's just the two of us. We've taken other people out with us, and we just don't seem to get the activity that we get when there's just two of us out. So
Stephanie Light says Patreon too, or Inner Circle. I'm thinking about launching a Patreon eventually. Just not now. We're enjoying just putting everything out right now. And when we're ready to ramp things up, because in order for me to have a Patreon, I'm going to definitely make it worth y'all's while, because if I'm going to have exclusive content, it's going to be a lot of exclusive content, and it's going to be insanely high quality content. So we're kind of preparing for that step to get there. We're really establishing kind of a baseline here with how we do our investigations, how we produce our videos, how we do these chats, how we do everything. That way, when the time comes for us to actually go to that model, we're going to continue with this as well as that model. We'll be able to actually give you guys some really insane, cool content, because that's the goal here, is to give you guys we have so many ideas. We have so many cool things rolling around in our heads, and ideas for experiments and videos and investigations that we really want to share with you guys. But sometimes we feel like some of it's a little out there, and that's what that would be for, is for that really out there stuff that only the people who really enjoy our content would enjoy and watch.
Taiju Ninja, you posted an audio waveform recently. What kind of audio did you capture? I don't know what we captured. We're going to have that in the video that comes up. Just to kind of give a summary, just because we've danced around it, there's an area where we've constantly had weird stuff of varying degrees happen. And we left out of that area, but we left an audio recorder there before we left. We picked up some crazy stuff on it that is obviously open to at least two different interpretations at this point. Some of it she and I are lockstep on. This is what this is. Others we're kind of going back and forth on. But then when we returned to get the recorder, we heard the same stuff with our own ears that we picked up on the recorder. So it was happening literally when we returned up in, and I don't know what it is. So it's not a black bear. It's not a feral hog. Not a person. I don't know what it is. I don't even know if I want to say it was like Bigfoot or Dogman due to some of the stuff we heard on there. That's a little odd, but we'll put it up and you guys can, hopefully we'll get some feedback on it and you guys can maybe bring a fresh perspective to it. So,
but it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be a good one.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap up over the next few minutes. If anybody else has got anything.
Yeah, if you got anything, let us know, and we will address it. If not, this has been a great live stream. Thank you for joining us for live stream number 7. it's been a lot of fun. We covered a lot of really cool topics. So
yeah. And down the road, some of these live streams, we might have some guests on. We might have some just different stuff. Right now, we're just kind of enjoying the free flowing nature of it, and kind of let you guys dictate where the conversation goes to. And like I said, just keep going from there. As long as people find that interesting, we find it interesting. We like hearing you all's perspective. So, Kaiju Ninja 1985. What is your favorite Bigfoot horror film? Big Legend. Big Legend is like the gold standard for.
Big Legend is great.
Big Legend is amazing. So, Cryptid Keeper wants to know: has anything followed you home? Yes. Yes. We currently have stuff going on around the house right now that is low level. It's not like we're seeing stuff move, but we're catching balls of orange light outside the windows. We're not able. We have cameras up everywhere.
Yeah.
We haven't caught anything on camera. We will. Our cameras are motion activated. We will have the camera cut on for no reason at all, and there's nothing there. But it's also fall, and we live in the woods, and there's leaves falling, so it might be that. I don't know. But we're picking
this
up.
Was starting before fall.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. But we're catching like weird stuff in the house. When it gets too bad, Jessi will cleanse it. Right now, we're just kind of like, I hate to say it, we're treating it like an experiment to see what happens with it. Yeah. So that may not be the smartest thing.
We'll see. When my dreams start getting really, really bad, then we'll definitely take some action. Because like sometimes if we let it go too long, my dreams get insanely bad. So I'm gotta get away from that. So
all righty. I think that's it, guys. So actually, let me hit this real quick. Dead end.
Hit Patricia too.
Okay. Dead end yard haunt. Hopefully a dogman doesn't follow you home. I don't know if a dogman has followed us home, but you talked about this. Jessi was looking out the kitchen window one night, and I mean, it's dark all around us. You know what I'm saying? It's dark. We've got like one neighbor, like a couple hundred yards away from us, and the rest of it's just woods on three sides. She's looking out the kitchen window, and I'm like, what are you looking at? And she's like, what is that? And I'm like, looking, and I don't see what, because it's dark out there. What I thought was a stump, like stands up, and it's like this huge, it looked like a dire wolf or something, man. It was giant. Might have been a coy dog. I don't know. But it was just sitting there looking in our kitchen window from the other side of our fence.
Yeah.
And then it just stood there and stared at us and then just poof, off. And we've seen some weird black shapes in the woods before. But again, you've always got to caution yourself that people start getting like Dogman and Bigfoot fever. They start seeing it like everywhere. So I'm always like kind of critical of myself when I think I see stuff like that. But still, I'm not sure. I saw the thing you were talking about, but I don't know where.
There it is. If someone goes to LBL, what advice would you give to them? Patricia Gambito, Harrington. Be careful.
Don't go alone.
Don't go alone.
If you're not comfortable, LBL's sketchy. Even if you don't believe in cryptid stuff, the LBL is pretty sketchy nowadays.
Yeah.
There's no law enforcement to speak of. Outside of like holidays with somebody there directing traffic.
And there's sketchy people.
There's sketchy people. So be careful.
Stay in the well-populated, as sparse as they are, stay in the well-populated areas.
Do you realize
if you're nervous about that?
If you walk up to the woman in the gift shop and you try to ask her about Dogman, she's going to tell you she doesn't know anything. And that's probably not a cover-up. It's probably because she's only been working there for 6 months.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of turnover, so there's not a lot of institutional memory there in certain spots. So we noticed that it didn't seem to be like a cover-up thing. It just seems like they just didn't know about any of it because they hadn't been there that long. And if you were interested in the 1982 massacre, you can contact the local historical society there. You can contact the Friends of the LBL, and they can give you some information about the massacre, the supposed massacre site that you can.
Why would you say that?
What do you mean?
Why would you put that on them?
I'm just saying, if you're interested in it, you can do some research while you're there, above and beyond just walking around. So just saying.
Okay.
Drop that out there. So,
all right.
But above all, just be careful. I mean, the LBL is gorgeous, even if it's got a certain kind of wild beauty about it. So, anyway, All right. You about ready?
Yeah, I'm about ready. So we're going to let the chat run so you guys can say your goodbyes and finish up. We really appreciate you guys joining us tonight. As always, you guys are awesome. We love these conversations. Keep an eye out for our next release. Make sure you have your notifications on because it's coming this week. The latest field investigation video. We are back in the saddle, kids. So join us for our latest video. It's going to be a doozy. I've been working on it and I'm getting freaked out just doing my own videos. So doing the editing on my own videos. So it's going to be interesting. We can't wait to hear I Love Poop from the Bigfoot Scat Project.
That'll
Very
be our
good.
swan song here
Thank
tonight,
you.
so, yeah.
Thank you, Bug. Thank you. You can contact us at Hellbent Get that off the screen. You can contact us at hellbentholler@gmail.com. Our PO box is there. And then you can find me on Instagram at hellbentjessi. So night, guys. We love y'all. We'll see you next week, and keep an eye out. Keep the notifications up for our latest video. And we're going to bow out at that. Joe, do you have anything else?
I got nothing.
Any more poop jokes?
Nope,
Anybody?
that's it. I'm done.
No? You're done?
Yep.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. This has been Hellbent Holler Live. Another Monday in the books. Y'all are rad. Good night.